Hey, everybody. Oh, we've got some real echoey stuff going on. Hopefully, it's not echoey for you guys. Shouldn't be. For some reason, the cameras today have just been kind of off, and I don't know why. Anyway, hey, we're sitting down with Caleb Stack from Vision Outdoors. We're going to be talking about this behemoth of a buck right here. If you can't see, he had a what size neck was this deer?
33 inch.
33
it's
inch.
crazy.
It is. He's a giant
I mean,
buck.
his body makes his rack look small.
No, he's huge, man. I mean, Rag's big too. No, it's not.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's so Caleb here hunts a lot of different states from all over. I mean, he's hunted. I'm going back to Kansas this year again.
Right. Yeah. Hopefully.
Hopefully, yeah.
We'll find out
hopefully.
in a few days.
Find out in a few days.
Yeah.
And then we're going to be doing some stuff with Caleb also. He was our pick of the litter for this year. So he's going to be hunting with us guys at the Ridge Ghost and a Coffee with Coleman guys. And we're going to be doing different places. Possibly if he gets a chance and we're able to. And we're going to be talking to him about this week. We're kind of dropping him on him now. But I think we're going to be doing Pennsylvania and Michigan. Is going to be our two bigs for this year. And Pennsylvania is sweet, dude. Me and Chad looked up all that info for how Pennsylvania runs a lot of their stuff.
There's a lot of deer up there.
Oh, man. Okay, so they set it up, and you get one antlered deer, you get a fall turkey, and then you get a spring turkey tag as well. So you can come back in this falling spring, which is sweet.
Right.
I mean, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So we're going to be jumping onto that. That might be something we try to hit every other year or every year with the guys from WTF and whatnot. We're going to try to work something out that way with them. And then I'm trying to think of what else we're going to be hitting.
Michigan, you said?
Michigan will be doing public land stuff. We're going to be doing...
That would be sweet.
Michigan's going to be fun. Michigan's going to be real fun.
Yeah.
I've got family up there, so I'm going to, it's going to be kind of a twofer for me. But and so does Steven. Believe it or not, the other Ridge Ghost we have, which we haven't even introduced yet, we're going to have all that stuff done by hopefully next week. But yeah, Steven's even got family in the same town. That
might know some public ground up there.
I'm hoping they do.
Spots.
I'm hoping they do.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're going to be doing some stuff up there. Maybe possibly finding some public or some private ground up there. I know some people up there, so I might, try to see what I can do up there. But and same with Steven. We're going to try to put our heads together and get things perfect for when we make our way up there. But anyway, we're going to get started. There's this buck in particular we're going to be talking about was kind of a wild thing. We always talk about adjusting your strategy in the moment, and I've seen it on several moments where you watch, if you're self-filming or filming or whatever, I've heard Zach Farrenball say it from the Hunting Public Boys, don't be afraid to get out of your stand and go move.
Oh, yeah.
And if it wasn't for that.
If I wouldn't have, I would have never even killed this buck,
Yeah.
Probably would have never even seen him.
Really? Because he was on the other side.
He was on the other side of some woods.
I mean, I've got a cool little trick. You can actually explain it, kind of give the layout of what we're talking about, how you had to belly crawl and what you're not. And then I've actually got his footage up, and we can have you guys watch that. He won't be able to see it, but you guys will. And then just kind of see the hunt, how it went down. But we'll explain everything so you can, see it beforehand. But I'm going to switch to a different camera, and y'all can...
You want me to draw it out?
Yeah. I'm going to switch over here. It might be blurry for a minute. Sometimes it decides to go natural here. Maybe. You're good whenever you're ready.
Okay.
Sometimes it has to focus on your hand or something black. I feel like every time I do any kind of drawings or anything like that on here, if it's not done beforehand, it won't pick it up on the focusing. So I'm going to jump back and forth, guys, here a little bit. Trying to make sure I can.
All right, are we on here?
Work. Yeah, we're on. Blurry, but on. I don't know why we're still blurry. Must be some Stranger Things going on or something, because all week I've had nothing but problems with camera gear. It's really weird. Nope. But it's still blurry. You can still see your outline of what you're trying to accomplish here.
So I was sitting right here. I got into the stand, I think, about 3 o'clock that day. And it was super windy. I mean, I was having a bad day already. And I actually had to get down and move a stand. Actually, I had to move a stand that next day. But since it was so windy and I was already having a bad day, I just got down. And there was a stand here. I actually had to move it over here. And I left my camera and everything I had with me. Well, I took my gun, obviously. But I left my camera in the stand because it was so windy I didn't plan on seeing anything. And when I come back, I started heading over this hill, and about 200, 300 yards away, he was standing on this dam with a doe. And,
Around that little lake?
Yep, that's a pond right there.
Or a little pond, yeah.
Yep. And this is all woods. This is like a finger of just kind of thicket. And from my stand, I can't see that pond.
Okay.
So I'm up on this hill, and he's standing there on that dam. And I mean, I'm totally visible. And I just get down, and I start belly crawling all the way across this field because I could have shot him. I mean, I had it right on him, and I knew it was him. I could tell. But I got all the way to here, crawled back into my stand, and couldn't see him. I tried grunting and rattling and blowing at him, nothing. But I mean, you know, he had a doe.
He had a doe with him,
so
he wasn't paying attention.
But I was just trying. So I was like, it's now or never. I got to get down and sneak back over there and see if he's still there. I did. I snuck back over there. Was sitting right here, and I didn't see him. I was like, gosh, he's gone, you know. And all of a sudden, I look up, and he just stands up out of a bed on that dam, and he was about to hop off. And,
really?
I mean, I had seconds to get on there and shoot him.
That's crazy.
I just flipped him.
So, I mean, when you talk about different tactics that, you know, you put into the field, you know, that's one thing that most people get locked on. It's almost like, you know, you're in a poker game and you've got twos. You're just staying in. I mean, just because you got twos, it's like, no, get out of that stand, or, you know, get out and do something. Don't be pot committed, you know, to your spot. I've done that. I did that last year. Like, literally that buck that I killed last year, I got out of a stand. I ran up a hill. I knew he was crossing an area.
I think
he tripped over a trail cam.
You were telling me that.
Yep. He tripped on a trail cam, and I knew he was there. So, you know, getting out of those spots, you know, I mean, trail cameras help you do that. You were in that moment where it was like you got to see him. You were like, oh, man, I got to get out there.
You know, who knows if I would have stayed in that stand, you know, if he would have come around, you know, I might have seen him, but probably not because, I mean, they always head this way, and that's where they were
about to dive into.
When I jumped down there, there was more deer back here in this corner on the opposite side.
Okay.
And
what's back behind that? Just a runoff?
This is all like woods.
Okay.
So
big
all
patch
this
of woods.
back here is woods, and this is all crop field.
Okay.
It was actually just cut that day.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, it was I seen that in the video. Real guys, I'm gonna let you guys take a check at this video of his and some of the footage, so you guys kind of get a little bit more in depth of what we.
Okay, it's November 17th. I just climbed up into my stand. The farmer was actually cutting these beans as I was climbing up in here, so that's good. But it's a little windy today. This is my first time hunting up north this rifle season, so hopefully we can have some luck. I know there's been a lot of bucks crossing through here, especially this finger right here. There's one buck on camera that I really would like to go after. He's a real big, heavy 10 with a split brow, and I'm hoping he comes out tonight. Hopefully this wind doesn't mess with him too much. Craig's going to come up here, I think, Friday and hunt the rest of the weekend, so hopefully we can have some luck. I was in the stand for about an hour, and the wind just kept picking up, and I decided to get down and go move a tripod stand. So I took my gun, I left all my camera and all my gear in the stand. I get down and I go move that tripod, and on the way back, I come over the hill, and that's when I see that doe and that buck standing there on that dam. And I had a shot, 200 yards, I had him in my scope, right in my crosshairs, but I wasn't going to shoot him without getting it on video, so I had to belly crawl all the way back into my stand across that bean field, and was hoping that I could get a shot from there. Nothing was working. He had a doe with him, so he was worried about nothing but her. So my last option was to get down out of the stand and sneak over there and see if he's still on that dam.
Oh my gosh. I hope I hit him. I couldn't see. I climbed down from my stand earlier to go move a stand because it was windy as heck. And I just moved it. I just moved a tripod 200 yards. And I come back over this hill and he's standing here on this dam. And I belly crawled all the way across this field to my stand. He was with a doe. My stand's right there. There's the pond. And he was standing on that dam with that doe. And I grunted, I rattled. He never would come in. So I said, I'm gonna sneak down here again, see if he's on that dam, and try and shoot him. I'm gonna go look for some blood. I don't know, maybe he dropped, I don't know, I hope I hit him. Oh my gosh. There he is. Flipped him. Oh my gosh. He broke his split off. But that's him. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you. Beautiful. Oh. Beautiful buck. Oh my gosh, look at the neck on him. That is awesome. Good mass. Oh, shit. Oh. Look at them brow tines. This is awesome. Oh man. Man. He is a freaking giant. He is freaking huge. I mean, what a body on this guy. The mass. We've had this buck on camera for years. I know we've had we have the sheds of him from 2 years ago and 3 years ago. And he's always had that little kicker there, but he broke it off, I guess, this year. But my gosh, I came up here. This is the buck I was going for, and sure enough, man, I came over that hill and I seen him standing there with that doe, and I thought I was screwed for a second, man. I didn't even have my camera. I had nothing with me besides my gun, and I wasn't gonna shoot without getting it on film. So I climbed back up in my stand and I grunted, I rattled, I tried everything I could to get him over there, but he had a doe. So I figured, I was like, he ain't gonna come. So I rigged up my camera on my tripod, climbed down, and I got to the field and I thought he was gone. I'm sitting there, just sitting on my butt, and all of a sudden I see him stand up from wherever here, and I started freaking out, and he started to come down into this thicket down here behind this dam, and I just put it right on him and dropped him. That's awesome. That's my biggest buck by far. Thank you, Lord. This is awesome.
All right, guys. So that was that adventure. I mean, he got down. We were talking about it. For some reason I'm having an audio issue with XFT4. I did an update and stuff, so I'm trying to get some of that stuff fixed. Hopefully we'll have all the kinks worked out when we get the new studio built here. But anyway, that was awesome. So me and him were kind of chatting back and forth. Me and Caleb were during that whole exchange, and how that all that played out was, like he said, he was going down to move a different stand, and ended up on his way back. You know, you had that bucket. What'd you say, 200 yards?
Probably 200, 250, you know. I mean, I could have shot him at 200.
Right.
And I was like, man, I think I'd rather get it on camera.
Yeah. Well, when you got that show, that's something that, like, you know, we don't talk a lot about on the show, because a lot of the guys that I have that come on, you know, we're everyday guys, you know. Which, not saying you're not an everyday guy, but when you're trying to, you know, get yourself out there and do an outdoor show and stuff like that, that's some of the trials and stuff that you run into. Yeah. My cousin, you know, he hunts for a pretty good team, and he had that same thing. He called me last year, you know, and he's like, man, I had to pass a giant that I could. He's like, I wasn't ready.
I passed on him, you know. Luckily, it worked out and I got him. But Craig, man, my brother, he was like, man, he's like, you're crazy for passing on him. I'm like, dude, you know,
I had to.
I got to get footage, you know.
Yep. And that's, you know, that's some of the things that, like, I try to explain to people who do get into the whole, you know, if you're going to create an outdoor show, you're going to do those things, you know, patience.
Right.
Like, my gosh, patience. And it's because it is frustrating when you get that buck at 200 yards, you got a clean shot, and you're like, oh my gosh, I don't have a camera.
You know, if I would have brought my camera with me, I would have, you know,
it'd have been done there. yeah. But it's, you know, it's kind of fun.
Lesson learned there.
But yeah, lesson learned. We were talking about GoPros. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've had a GoPro right in the middle of a hunt just pop out. I'm like, oh, that's not good. Like, that's not good. And then have to, you know, restart. But, you know, tell me a little bit about what you guys envision or wanting to do. You know, I know you guys, you're doing many different platforms. You guys getting into turkey hunting, I'm sure, as far as video. And did you guys get any turkey footage this year, or did you guys get much time to do it this year?
Didn't really have much time.
Gotcha.
I know I didn't go myself. I don't think Craig went, but
that's something we need to get together sometime for, because turkeys are.
Yeah.
I love turkeys. That's probably one of my favorite things to hunt.
Turkeys, I mean, out where I'm from, we don't have much around the farm. You know, we got to go to public ground somewhere.
Right.
Because we have had like 0 hatches the last like 5 or 6 years.
Really? That's something that
we got a lot of bobcats, coyotes, coons, possums. You know, a lot of small game out there. Yeah.
Well, you know, and that's something that's not getting hunted that much anymore. Small game. We talk about that all the time on here. You know, it's kind of a sad thing. You know, it's something that, you know, honestly, if there was a show, I think it almost needs that. You know, it almost needs another outdoor show to be able to do that. I wish we would
do it more.
You know, trapping and all that stuff, because
Mm-hmm.
I don't trap a lot. I got buddies that trap a lot.
I just started getting into it. You know, I just bought some traps this year.
And they said it's fun.
Yeah.
Like they love it.
It's tough.
And they have a good time. All the guys that I've talked to about, they're like, man, I have so much fun trapping. But they said the worst part is, you know, checking. Finding the time to check.
Well,
like
I set up Tacticam reveals over mine. So
okay. So you know when there's something in there.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's smart. I would have never even thought about that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, set up a Tacticam, and
I love
then Tacticam, man. If you guys are listening, we're working with you. We're gonna get after you. I'm gonna get after you. I think that's another thing too. Picking product and picking stuff that you're gonna want to use. We got with the WTF boys this year, and I was really, really, really pleased at how that camo is like hands down some of the best camo I've felt.
I like the quality of it.
Quality
It's
is
nice,
insane.
for sure.
Like, it's nice, it's heavy, it's water resistant. I went and took water the moment I got it. That was the first thing I did. Yep, that was the first thing I did. My wife's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm throwing water all over that to see what it does." And it repelled it.
Yeah.
And I was pretty blown away. You know, they're a great group of guys. You know, 10 minutes from them, you know, they're super, super nice dudes. Every time I'm on the phone with them, you know, they're like, "Hey, you guys good to go? You guys got everything you need?" You know, like, couldn't be more pleased with, you know, customer service.
I'm sure we'll meet up with them when we go to Pennsylvania.
Yes, I haven't really talked to him a whole lot about it. You know, I mentioned it one time before. And, you know, we're going to be in Michigan anyway around October. I think we're going. I think the 15th is when we're going to try to hit October. Or 15th of October is when we're going to try to hit Michigan, because that's a good little spot. It gets a little colder faster up there, and it seems like deer movement, you know, in these colder areas, they do move around a little bit different. I don't know why, but I don't know if it's just because it gets them on their feet. Maybe I don't know, but we have, you know, swings here where, you know, you deal with it all the time. You hunt Missouri. I mean, even Kansas, I'm sure is pretty close to our. Yeah, you never know. You might be. This week they said it was gonna rain Tuesday and Wednesday. Now it's raining Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and possibly Thursday.
Almost
so it's
every day this week.
It's like, okay, well, Missouri, where you can wear flip flops and boots in one week, you know, it's.
Yeah.
So, you know, when I talk about strategy, you know, I always ask this question with everybody: What's your number one thing going into the woods? Like, if you were to sit there and say you had one tactic that you use every single time you go in the woods, obviously opposite of wind, because everybody knows if you ain't hunting your wind, don't go in the woods. If you're not hunting wind, don't go in the woods.
Man,
but if you were to have a bulletproof, you know, like something that, you know, before you go in, that's that thing you think about, you know, whether it be, you know, how you put your plots in the fall in order to have concealment, or you know, do you guys even do a lot of plots yourself? Or is it...
I do a lot of plots around like our family farm. Up north, don't really have to because it's pretty much all crops. But I don't even hunt really at the family farm. I just kind of like putting in crops and everything for them. But
okay,
man, I wouldn't even know. I don't know.
I put you on the spot.
Yeah,
I put you on the spot real quick.
I mean,
for me,
just patience.
Yeah, we talked about
just soon enough. Like if you sit the same spot, just sit there. Something's gonna come through one day. You know. I think I've had better luck just sitting in one spot than moving around. You know, if you're hunting a different stand every day, more than likely you might see a deer, but if you sit the same spot every day, a buck's going to come through there sooner or later.
And position, so when you say sit the same stand every day, as far as, like for me, when I go and do stands like that, I have several different stand locations on my farm, which we'll get into that today. But I position stands for the most part where I can hunt whatever wind. And I tell people constantly, you know, it's like, if that wind ain't right for me, I'll just go sit an observation stand. And is that something you guys, I mean, I know you guys do a lot of run and gun, so you guys are kind of in that moment of, you know, when you go to Kansas, you don't have the time to really drive out there every day or every week or whatever the case may be. You know, you get that one-time chance to go in and do your homework, and you know, and that's your spot. But you guys are only going in those spots for, you know, 5 days to a week or 2 weeks at a time. At most.
A week at most. At most. 2 years ago, we were there a day. So.
Well, and that's the way it should be. But that's, you know, you do your homework, you shouldn't have to do that. You know, you shouldn't have to sit, you know,
Kansas
20 times.
Man, it's just it's totally different. I mean, it's normally windy out there anyways, you know, so you got hard winds almost every day out there, and you can't really play the wind because it's all over. Is
it all over out there?
Yeah.
See, I've never hunted
times,
Kansas.
I mean, sometimes, you know, some days you'll have straight winds, but other times but it don't affect them. I mean,
you think they're used to it?
Yeah.
Like that type of mentality?
I killed my 3 biggest deer in hard winds. Killed him in hard winds during the rut. You know, they don't care. I mean,
they're not.
If they're rutted up, they're going to go after what they want,
and
you know.
There was a perfect example of that. Chad had a buck that came in last year, and man, dude, I thought he was going to be busted. Like, just watching the footage of that deer coming in, I'm like, oh, dude, he's about to walk right in. And he did. He did walk into that wind. And I got to laugh, and I got to talk to Chad about that. I said, man, he busted you. And he goes, yeah, I like it when they bust me. And I said, what do you mean? He goes, I don't like it when they bust me and run, but I like having enough of a scent to where I'll play my wind on the tree to where I want to shoot, to where that wind's going. And if they're on that main trail, they'll hit that and they'll stop.
Right,
I don't have to do nothing. I'm already ready. I'm already drawn. I'm already ready to go. So when they hit that and they go, oh, what is that? they're toast. They're already toast.
I've never thought of that before.
Yeah. No, I mean, you're gonna
That's
get
one
some
way of doing it, I guess.
you're gonna get some info from Chad when you get to meet him. That, I mean, a dude does things that I've never seen people do in the woods.
He hunts a lot of public, doesn't he?
He hunts a ton of public. That's pretty much all he hunts. I mean, he takes his kids to a private farm, and he hunts a private farm, late season, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
But, when you get into those public land areas, man, it's hard to navigate them. And then when you're doing, even not just public, even land that you're not able to manage throughout the year.
Right.
Now we've got to where we have the Tacticams, we have the cell cams and the things like that, to where, you can be in Kansas and still monitor your ground, and then go, man, if there's not deer moving through that pinch, at least for the last month, now I can go up there and move around to something else.
Right.
When you guys go to those places, do you guys put cameras in spaces that see a lot, or do you put them in pinches, or what exactly do you guys go after?
Field edges, a lot of field edges, looking over fields and heavy
Cruising.
crossings and stuff.
Heavy cruising corridors.
Yeah, but I would say out in Kansas, I think last year was the first year we put cameras out there, and I think we only had 2 out there.
Really?
But we got a couple good bucks on camera, and then the batteries died before, I think in September. But like I was telling you earlier, I think we're gonna go solar this year out there. So save some trips.
Yeah, the solar thing, it's a little bit more expensive on top. Obviously, I mean, it's ideal for people who have that situation. I mean, I've got so many good things I can say about cell cams that. Mm-hmm. For me, even for habitat, just habitat in general with cell cams, I think
keep your scent out and
they don't feel
pressured.
They don't feel sporadic. They don't feel like they're in an area where they're not supposed to be. I guess is the best way to explain it.
You could go in one time, in the middle of a bedding area and just, sit it there and you just watch what goes on in that bed. You know, and you don't have to go in and out and spooking them out of there.
Spook them out, change out SDs. Like the game for all this. Herd management. A lot of people go, man, isn't that kind of like cheating or this or that? I'm like, no, man, it's better herd management. Yeah. That's what it is. Yeah. I mean, it does help. It does help the hunter, but everything that's helping the hunter, why shouldn't that be herd healthy too?
Right.
I mean, why shouldn't that go towards herd? Because that's essentially what you're trying to do. I wish we had more things that lean towards does.
Yeah.
And things like that in the hunting community. That's something that we always talk about big bucks and how we get those big bucks. But these guys, that's what they're after. They're after does. You know what I mean? And then there are only certain times of the season. So it's like, almost doe herd healthy. The herd being healthy with your doe population is 10 times more important to me
for sure
than having giants on the cameras and stuff all the time. That's like the main thing I focus. So when come December, because I like hunting that late season. Come December, all the way from November to December, dude, the deer on the farm that I hunt, we don't really have to worry. They're gonna be there. They're gonna come after. They're gonna be in there. They're there every single year because we make those little preparations for them.
Right.
Another thing I wanted to ask you, as far as Kansas, because you guys can't probably put out mineral sites the way you want to. Do you guys just use rocks? Do you guys use anything like
really
that, or you don't do any?
Much? Because the farm, we just got permission this past year, and it's they run cattle on it all throughout the summer and fall, and then once they switch over, I guess mid-fall, and they take the cattle off there and they put the cattle in the fields.
Okay.
So we really don't put. I mean, it's kind of pointless.
Right, because
we
they'll
put
just
stuff
be in
out.
there.
It'll be cows.
Yeah, cows will get after it.
Yeah.
I see that a lot with Kansas when it comes to
even
turkeys and all kinds of stuff.
Kansas, you can legally feed corn and minerals and stuff like that in
really?
Kansas. Yeah, and same with Ohio, because we've hunted Ohio the past 2 years.
How do you like Ohio?
Oh man, I've had some bad luck, but
it's tough.
It's awesome, man. I've never seen like so many big deer. Myself, well, personally, I didn't see any while I was hunting, but just
out
in general,
just out
like
about.
Craig, with the group we had, we seen so many big bucks, and just the area we were at was killer.
Ohio's one of them that are just they've been one after another. I mean, they're really curating deer down there.
Public ground stuff there.
That's what, dude. That's what I was saying. It's tough. Like that's what I've heard. Is it's tough.
I went back. I think it was muzzleload season this past year, and me and a buddy from Tennessee, and it was terrible, man. I mean, I bet I heard 300 something shots.
No joke.
The Amish went in there and they were just doing deer drives.
After crazy.
Another. I got up, so I brought a little stand with me. And I climbed up in the tree, and I got up. I'm only like 8 foot up in the tree, and I could see 4 other hunters within 80 yards of me. And I'm like, what is this? And mean, it was crazy.
That is wild.
And we ended up getting down and going somewhere else, but it was insane.
Well, yeah, I mean, like I did that same thing one time. I went out to a spot that me and Chad kind of hunt quite a bit, but like it was so drenched. It's like, you know, I kind of feel bad. Like we live in a state, you know, with Missouri being that it's crossbow. Anybody can use crossbow. You don't have to have a special reason to use it.
Right.
And, you know, I know for all those guys out there that are, you know, kind of against crossbows, they're ethical. Like they're just as ethical, I think, if not more ethical. But then you have those people that are sit there and say, you know, well, the people that are using them are people that are not versed in the woods. And I'm like, that's not true either. You know, like I ghillie hunt with a crossbow sometimes, and I've shot deer at 5 yards.
I want to during alternative season. I want to hunt with a crossbow this coming year. I mean, I never have. You know, I like the challenge with the compound, but you know.
So I tell people this all the time. If you're gonna hunt with a compound, get in a tree.
Yeah.
Okay. You want to hunt with a crossbow? Ghillie hunt a buck bed.
Mm-hmm.
And I promise you, you'll have better success in that tree than you will be ghillie hunting that buck bed. But I promise you, if you have a buck in that ghillie suit in that buck bed, your heart will be pounding 10 times harder than what it did in that tree. And then it's just, for me, it's like I don't have to, if I'm hunting those close quarters. A few years back, I shot one on a home farm, and she was literally from me to that wall.
Wow.
Like me to that wall. She had no idea I was there. We had like a 15-mile-an-hour wind, 20-mile-an-hour wind that day. And that's why I didn't get up in the tree. I was like, I'm not getting up in the trees. I'm going to be swaying the whole time. Mm-hmm. And I had my kid's crossbow. I had the kid's crossbow in the car. I was like, yeah, I'm going to take that crossbow and take my ghillie suit out. I'm just going to go sit. And I sat and I had a V. That's all I had was V of switchgrass in front of me. And I just kind of V'd it out, and there was a big clover patch. And I didn't even hear, nothing. I just seen the body move in front of that switchgrass in the opening that I had, you know. And I was like, oh, wow. And I was like, she don't see me. You know, I was just like literally from me to you, feet almost touching her, you know. And so I already had my, you know, that crossbow and a little bog stick, and I just leaned up and I was like,
didn't even
no
have to
way.
aim down.
No, I was like, no way. And I, you know, bow. It sounded like I hit her with a sledgehammer. Gosh. You know, like it was, and I shook more.
Probably didn't go far.
Oh no, she went like 25 yards and piled up. But I shook more than I did shooting that 140 incher last year. Like, I mean, I shook like crazy. I called my wife and I'm like, dude,
close encounters like that are crazy.
Yeah, it was. I couldn't even stop. So after that, that's when I really got into that ghillie hunting, and ended up doing the same thing with a buddy that came down, and we ghillie hunted together like that. Ended up shooting his first deer at 10 yards. Wow. And I mean, he was so close. Like I said, we could see the breath coming out of his nose. You know, I was like, oh man, like this crazy. Is intense. You know, and so like if you are gonna use a crossbow and do those things, use it however you want. I really don't care, but try that. If you're gonna do it, try it. I'm telling you, I got goosebumps just thinking about it. Like I'm telling you, it was one of the most insane hunts I'd ever been on. It was a doe. Like I was a mess. I was shaking so bad I couldn't even call my wife. You know,
tough to get a deer, you know, in that close. You know, it's that close. Impressive.
Yeah. And honestly, I mean, I was using regular scent stuff. I mean, how I feel when it comes to the scent, but that just so happened to work out. You know, I don't know if it wasn't what I was planning. I was planning to shoot one in that little clover patch, and I was up on a hill, and that's what my plan was. She just happened to walk right there and just had no idea I was there. I was blown away. She had her head down when she walked past me, I think. Yeah. Because I wasn't even looking. I was staring over to the right, trying to peek over because I thought I heard something that way. And then I just happened out of the corner of my eye to see that brown in front of me. I was like, no way. And I turned and I was like, oh. And had no idea I was there. No idea. I was actually sitting up pretty close to a fence row, too, where they were hopping over. And that's kind of where I was, my thought process.
Listening for him to
I was waiting for, for a buck to pop over that fence because I could see it come up over that fence. If that was kind of my thought process going in. But if you haven't ghillie hunted with a crossbow, I highly recommend it.
I definitely like to.
I highly recommend it. And we'll do some of that. Maybe we'll just get together and do some of that this fall, man. I'll take you out some spots and we'll ghillie. We'll do some buck beds that'll blow your mind. Like creek beds, you know, that's another big thing for me. I love hunting creek beds. I love hunting river bottoms. Yeah. I mean, what would your favorite be? I mean, if you had a spot to pick, as far as like if you had a terrain that you love to hunt, what would you be? What would you pick?
I mean, really, I've hunted crop fields, and then I've hunted hardwoods. That's pretty much it. I mean, I like I don't know. I like hillsides. I really do.
Ridges.
Yeah.
Like good ridge?
Off the ridges. You know, like middle of the hillsides, kind of coming down from if you get in between a good bedding and a good, feeding area, like middle of the hillside somewhere. 'Cause
Yep.
that's a lot of them bucks cruise them hillsides.
It's funny. We almost called our when we were thinking of names of what we were going to do, that was, I hunt a lot of ridges. That's if I'm going to be in the hardwoods, that's pretty much where I'm going to be. I'm going to be like creek
Right
crossing.
off the kind of the tip of the ridge, you
Yep.
know?
I like being where, I get down into spots like when I'm picking a stand location, generally I always go out with somebody. I honestly try not to go out there by myself, not because of just safety, but because I like trying to get to that deer's vision. I like having a buddy get up into a tree selection that we
You
pick.
get a second opinion too,
Yeah.
you know? Yeah.
And then I get down on that deer's level off that, trail or whatever the case it may be. And I'll look up at that area and go, okay, can I get away with that? Am I going to be able to, and I like having that, I like mid-ridge mainly because just like you do, mainly because it gives us that extra back. It seems like them bucks during the rut, boy, they're always down in those little creek bottoms or river bottoms or whatever it is off the ridge or whatever kind of culvert or ditch or whatever it is. They run 20 yards off of it or 10 yards off of it.
I think Chad, he said he hunts a lot of
he is a
creek bottoms and
he's
stuff.
a
Yeah.
creek bed dude.
Yeah.
But he likes, and he's smart with what he does when it comes to that because it's usually created pinch points by a lake or a waterway.
Yeah, I was watching, his video. He was explaining, the water's here and it, comes down into that
And
point.
it funneled.
Yeah.
It was just a perfect
Smart.
little funnel. It was funny when I went out there and found that spot. I got out of the car and we were having kind of a rough time trying to find some public where it wasn't like super overly hunted. And I went to a spot that I had scouted in turkey season and I told myself, I'm going to come back to that because I know there was trails all over. And I actually didn't even go to the spot that he looked at it on onX one time. I found a scrape 30 yards from the car. And then I found 9 more going down the same, just right down the ridge.
Yeah.
And it wasn't really even a ridge. It was really just at that spot was just like a big finger that was in there. It split 2 fields. And I was like, well, I'm going to hunt down there because that's easy for us to get to. And I had some people that had never hunted before. Chad took one look at that and went, I'm going to go down there. And I was like, well, why are you going to down? He goes, I'm going to go down there. First night in, he come back up. He messaged me. He's like, dude, I just seen a toad. And I'm like, where? And he's like, right where I said I was going to go. He switched one tree. I think it was a week later. He shot that 148-incher out of there.
Wow.
And that wasn't even the big one that was in there. He seen one that was bigger, he said, that was in that spot. And so it was like, when you get to those, we talk about that all the time, the whole putting stuff into your tool belt, like I have a hard time, telling somebody that I really don't tell people their hunting style is wrong. I don't think there really is a wrong hunting style. You learn no matter how
everybody's is different,
you do it. Yeah. And you go through the progression every time you go to get in a stand, and I've done it for years. I've had times that when I go to hit a stand and I screw up myself because I get in the way of myself, you know what I mean? Of going, maybe I should have took that advice, and then I didn't. And then it works for, it would have worked, or you see that deer and you're like, man.
Yep.
And I got tired of doing that. I got tired of sitting there going, okay, well, I'm not going to try that. Just try it. That's all I can tell people is, you never know what a deer is going to do. But I promise you, there's a lot of deer that are similar, especially bucks, and there's not too many variations, I think, of bucks. You get those rare ones that travel a lot.
Yeah.
But if they're big and
every
framing,
now and then, which is rare,
Right. I think if you're doing the right property management.
Most mature bucks won't travel far.
Nope.
They'll stay.
Rut is about the only time that you see them travel crazily. They talk about I talk about the whole summer and fall homes too.
Oh, that's
is that something
huge.
is that something that affects you guys pretty hard when you guys are trying to get stuff for Kansas and other places?
I mean, mainly back home.
Really.
Like right now, I'll run cameras down in my food plots back home, and I'll have 15 to 20 different bucks. And then come first week of September, I'll have 5.
Right.
Yeah, and I'm like, where
do they go? Yeah,
and
where
then
they go?
and then come, November, I'll get a cruising picture of one of them. I'm like, oh,
there he is.
He's alive.
He knew where this spot is.
Yeah, and then that's it. And then I won't get another picture of until summertime.
Right.
It's weird.
Well, I talked to a good buddy of mine that's up north of Michigan, and he talked about that whole, summer, fall last year. We talked about it a lot. I said, man, I've got a giant in here, and it seems like September 10th. I know it sounds weird, but it's been the last 2 years. It was September 11th for one time and September 10th the other one. Literally vacated a property for a different spot.
Yep.
On it all summer. He hit every mineral site. He was on every camera on that farm.
Right.
Come fall, it's like he knew, dude. He knew he had to get down in that corridor area when that one cold front came through.
Yeah.
You know, and hopefully it's like, you know, you try to manage that property into where you get those big bucks like that to stay. But it seems like the ones that don't want to fight are the ones that stay.
That's why I wish Missouri would open on September 1st.
I know. I don't get it.
A lot more bucks.
Oh, I could have.
If they would have.
100%. 100%.
Oh, yeah.
And
velvet too. I've always wanted a velvet buck.
Chad killed one in December in velvet.
What?
Yeah, he had no nuts. He must have caught him on a fence or something.
Wow.
Yeah, I haven't showed you that buck yet?
No.
Oh, I'll have to show you pictures of it.
That's crazy.
He sent me a video. It's like the funniest video ever, but he sent me a video and we were talking about it and he was like, he was in the stand and he sent me a message. He's like, I think I just shot a buck in velvet. And I'm coming back from my bow hunt spot and I'm like, you what? And he's like, and it's December. I don't even remember what day it was, but he's like, yeah, I think I just shot a buck in velvet. And I was like, you think or you know? He's like, either he's really massive or he's in full velvet. And I was like, it's December, dude. Like, what do you mean? And so I started looking at him like, okay, it could be an antler doe, could be this.
Right.
No, just come to find out, he had no nuts, never lost any of the velvet.
Crazy, man.
And what's wild is he never had pictures or anything of that deer
just
ever.
A cruiser.
Just cruising in, got into a comfortable area, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's one of my dreams. I've never got to shoot a velvet buck in my life.
Carolinas, that's where you go.
That's what I hear. Carolinas. I heard. Is it Tennessee or Kentucky? Which one opens?
I think Tennessee.
One of them open
Tennessee
early.
does I think I could be wrong, but I want to say it's like a weekend or a week hunt, like for velvet season.
Really?
Yeah.
I looked into. I can't remember which one it is. I thought they opened earlier, but I could be wrong. It's something I need to dive into more. Now we're gonna be traveling.
I know some guys that hunt Carolinas and they kill velvet bucks. Yeah, it's
like almost every.
But,
so
I mean,
how
they're
is
not
Carolinas?
big,
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. How are the bucks in Carolinas? I've never really talked to too many people.
Probably.
Like
I would
120
say, I'd say
there.
I would say so. I'd say if you kill a 100-inch, you're doing pretty good.
Really?
I mean,
I mean, you got to think terrain-wise. I mean, they don't have a lot of ag out there,
much.
do they? I mean, I used to drive through it every once in a while, but I don't remember them having a lot of ag out there. At least the areas that I went.
And it's just hotter weather, you know.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's nastier, I'm sure. I mean, when I lived out in Virginia when I was in the military, that same thing. You know, we'd go down to Nags Head, which is it's a coastal town. But yeah, they always had bad weather rolling in off the ocean.
And I also think they kill. I want to say you can kill like 3 or 4 bucks a person.
Really?
Yeah, I could be wrong, but you can kill a lot.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's
why they don't get big.
Right.
You know?
Right. Yeah.
And everybody's
shooting
shooting all the 2 and 3 year olds. You know, you ain't gonna get big deer when you kill all the 2 and 3 year olds.
Right. But, yeah. I mean, so we talk about something too that I talk about a lot of time is what's your position on big, tall, framey bucks? Because I have talked to several people when it comes to big, framey, tall bucks, and they're completely different. It seems like, and I know it sounds weird, but they're a completely different ball game from like thick, more tighter rack bucks. It seems like these guys travel, and it seems like these big, framey bucks don't travel as much.
I mean, I don't know. I would say it's all depends on the buck itself.
The first 3 that were in here on the show, were as far as tall and framey bucks. Every one of them had dang near the same. Talking about like
tall, wide?
Just tall, big framey. Big frame, not tons of mass, but just big frame.
Well, in Kansas this year, last day, Craig had already killed, and I was sitting in the spot that he was sitting at. He had so much action there. And we've been sitting there. We've been hunting that farm for, I think, 5 days now. And we pretty much were seeing every buck on that farm. You know, there was probably, I don't know, 10 different bucks, and not one of them. Craig killed the biggest one. It scored, I think, 139, and we weren't seeing anything monstrous. And he was actually walking down. I think he was going to grab a camera and walk that fence line. He kind of spooked some deer to me, and he said just a monster, just big, tall, wide, monstrous buck. He said massive 8-point, and we have never seen him before. You know, and we were on that farm for 5 days. We had cameras out earlier that year. So, I mean, he was definitely a new buck, I think.
Right. So he moved out of, or he was just in a corridor where you didn't notice. Because I had a buck that did that to me. I had a buck, I don't know, he's probably, I think when we aged him, I think they said he was 3.5. I didn't want to shoot him. I passed him a bunch. Yeah. But he was a big framey buck. But he was afraid to go out in the field with other bucks. He would not do it. He would not go out there. If another buck come out there, he'd jet out of there. He didn't want
just
nothing to do.
Just not a fighter.
I keep talking about those big framey bucks, and I think 2.5, 3.5 going against a 5.5, 6.5, or 4.5 even. 4.5 is like that peak age where you're really fighting. I mean, they're really territorial. At least every 4.5 that I've ran into on my farm is usually the more aggressive buck.
This guy, there was another buck on the farm. They were both fighters. I would say he was 5.5, and then there was another buck, mainframe 8-point. That was, I think, 7, and just massive too. I think he scored about 130, but they were both fighters. They were the 2 fighters on the farm.
Thick, heavy deer.
Yeah. Yep.
Smaller, tighter racks.
The 8, he was tighter, taller, and heavy.
Yep.
And
I
this
think
guy,
there's
he's
gotta
not
be something
wide.
to it.
He's got great mass, and I think he's got a 16-inch spread. But
he had what'd you say, 8-inch?
8 and something inch brows.
Brows, yeah. That's sweet.
Yep.
And then like body size. Look at this guy though too. Body size.
Yeah, he was a beast. When I seen him on hoof, when I first seen him, I was like, that's a nice buck, probably 140 inch. And then got my gun up, and I'm like, oh crap, that's him.
That's him.
Like like he looks a lot smaller, on hoof.
On hoof because of how big he is.
I knew he was big because we had pictures of him for, I don't know, a few years. I actually have the sheds of him the year before, 3 years before.
How old do you think he was?
I think he was 5.5.
5.5 buck.
Yeah, I found the shed. Actually, after I killed him, we were shed hunting that following year, and I found the shed to his year before this.
Right. I want to know. I really do. I think I'm going to start diving in and paying a lot of attention to the whole framing of buck.
Yeah, I never really thought of that. But
it's weird. It's wild. And it'd be one thing if I heard it from like 1 or 2. But it's like a reoccurring thing.
Yeah.
Like I hear, like last year we had 3 different buddies that I talked to.
I'll start paying attention.
Yeah. I mean, like, I don't know what it really isn't going to help, I think, in a lot, but I think it will help as far as, kind of picking apart what bucks are going to stay on your farm.
Right.
Which is a big thing for me because if I know a buck's homebodied, I might hunt a different portion if he's a big, like that 3.5-year-old. He was a big framey buck, 142-inch 3.5-year-old.
Wow.
And that's huge. That's huge. But he would always, he never wanted to show face. He was really nocturnal. He was really, really off his pattern like any other buck I'd seen.
Yep.
And then I got to see him for the first time in a field, and he would not, he did not want to stay out there. And we had Blake Stevenson, he came on. He had that big giant 9. That thing was, that thing was just tall framing buck. He said the same thing. He said, yeah, he didn't respond to my rattles half the time. I'd seen him a couple different times, but he stayed in that corridor. He's like, I knew where he was at. And it seems like these big framey bucks, you can almost, I'm not saying they're easier to hunt by any means, but it seems like at that young, age where they're 2.5, 3.5, and they are 130.
They're probably less active,
Well, I think they're getting tried. I mean, if we were to sit in a field, and watch this guy come up and go against that 3.5-year-old that I shot, I didn't even know he was 3.5. I knew he was young, but the only reason I shot him is because he was injured. But I guarantee you, if he were to face off with that big framey buck, he's going to run.
Oh, yeah.
He's a big, he's huge. He was huge. This guy's huge, but I'm saying rack-wise, it's like, I don't know if there's any determination with deer, if they can tell in that. And I wonder, I'm almost wondering, is it a rack size thing that some of these aggressive bucks go to, and they see? I had a buck
just a confidence thing.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, I've seen small bucks go up on big bucks, just trying to be dominant.
Trying to be dominant or not knowing what they're doing. And it seems like, that big framey buck that, I'm almost betting when he was 2.5 years old, because I have pictures of him when he's 2.5 old. He was big deer. He looked nice at 2.5. It's like, man, it's going to be a hard, probably 120-inch deer, or 110-inch deer.
We had a real cool hunt out in Kansas. I think it was like 4 years ago, three or 4 years ago. Craig was actually taking one of our buddies from Florida, and they were hunting over this. I mean, I think it was just a regular field. I don't know if it wasn't hay field or anything, but they had just bucks all over him. And there was the buck he was going after, the one he shot, real nice 10-point, dominant. You could tell because there was probably, 30 other deer in that field, and he would just walk by, and
nudge him,
kind of just do that with his head, and the other bucks would turn and go the other way.
Yeah.
Just dominant. You could tell they'd just get out of his way.
Yeah, he didn't. Yeah,
Right.
He's just dump truck coming in there. That's how that Voldemort buck was last year. I bet you he's the same way.
Probably.
I bet you this buck here was the same way. There wasn't no other buck in that area right at the moment when he had that doe with him on the backside of that lake.
Well,
right?
I seen one, but I don't know.
He didn't stick. Did he? He didn't stick around, did he?
After I shot, they booked.
Obviously, they booked.
They were in the woods, so I couldn't really tell if there was 10 deer or 3 deer.
3 deer, yeah, yeah. I mean, I've seen a lot of these. To me, and just in my experience, a lot of these short tine, thick, heavy bucks.
Yeah.
They're the most dominant ones in there. Almost every time. It's so weird, and that's why I was saying that association with, the big framey bucks. Do those guys go more nocturnal? For me, it's like, could we find a way to pattern them in that sense? Because that buck that I shot, man, he stayed behind the lake. Yeah. He literally did not move out of it. And I had 14 cameras on that farm. Oh. Like, I had 14 cameras running at one time, and I maybe had 3 of them that he hit within a 600-700 yard radius. And every time I was out there in that farm, I'd see him do the same thing, the exact same thing every day. He was just comfortable back there. Mm-hmm. And it was almost like he was so comfortable. It wasn't just because he was comfortable. It's like he didn't want to deal with. He knew other dominant bucks weren't necessarily coming into that area and that was where the does generally. Right. It was weird. He was a weird deer, and I've just heard several deer like that. He
was kind of the same way. He always stayed that farm. He stayed more on the northwestern side. We didn't really get too many pictures on the east. Definitely not on the south side, but he would always kind of like come from this side, and they cruised this a lot, right? To that stand where I was at, that finger.
In that finger?
That finger where we had that stand, that's the rifle spot, man, because when you're sitting up there in that stand, you got field to your left, and you can see all that field to your right.
True, yeah.
I mean, you can make a 400-yard shot. And then I had a bow stand actually on the other side of that pond that he was at, and that was a killer bow spot. It was in the corner.
So is that the one you were talking about you were moving?
No, I actually moved another one, kind of directly across.
Kind of adjacent from it. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
But yeah.
Oh, you're saying on the tip of that finger? Is that what you're saying? On the tip of that? Well,
like,
here, I can see it if I switch over to you here. There you go.
So I had a bow stand right here, which this is all woods.
Okay.
And
was this? So you're saying that area was behind that lake? You think that was big sanctuary? Pretty much?
He'd come out. He would there's a road here.
Okay.
Road right here. He would come across this road this way, or he'd come down here. And I found one of his sheds right here. Another one of his sheds, I think, right here, and then the other one was like right here. So he would come through like that, or in here, and they always stayed. This was their main area right there, and that's where I had that bow stand. And this was all woods. They'd come out, and they'd either come out here and go to this pond, or they'd come out here and feed on this hilltop right here.
Right. Well, I mean, you got everything you need right there. You got thick cover,
this
a finger,
was a killer,
a lake,
killer spot.
A pond. That's ideal for what you want with little fingers, so they can kind of go out there and browse.
And this was just covered in rubs. I mean, just rubs everywhere.
So as far as access to this spot, are you crossing that field for the main part, or just straight to it? Or
so when I hunted back here, the only way to access that was I had to walk all the way. I couldn't hunt it in the mornings. I had to walk all the way across because this chunk of ground right here was actually the neighbor's.
Okay.
So I couldn't access it from this road. I had to. We had a road over here, and I had to walk. It took me, I don't know, 25, 30 minutes just to get to my stand.
Right.
And I hunted it one time in the morning, and I spooked so many deer out. And I told Craig, I'm like, dude, this is pointless. Right. We got to get here early, and just wait, And we did, and I actually had a trail camera set up right here, and you can see our headlights. Craig was coming to drop me off, and there's 2 bucks. One, the buck I was going after, just standing there right in front of the camera, looking at our headlights. And I'm like, dude, because I was watching the camera. We had our tech cams. I'm like, okay, they're not in front of the camera. They're not out there feeding because it was a soybean field. And then as soon as we peek over that hill, you can see our headlights in the camera. And he's staring at us. I'm like, oh my gosh, dude. No. But I mean, it's just impossible to hunt in the morning.
When I look at this spot, so I'm a big overfood at night.
Yeah, I agree.
In the woods in the morning. That's just
I think so.
It seems like and this is, like I said, this is all climated where I hunt. I hunt generally pretty much same county, if not a county over, maybe here and there. I mean, and I do go other places in Missouri, but for the most part, I stick pretty much to Marion, Lewis, and whatnot. Mm-hmm. When it comes to that, like we talked about getting out on a boat, I have a buddy that's been hunting backside of core ground, and he's been doing it in the morning. And I said, what's your most success? Why do you do that way? He goes, dude, it seems like every time, these deer are out in that field at 4:45, 5 o'clock in the morning, and they're out there, and they will check them scrapes. They will hit the edge. He goes, some of them deer will stay out there till 7 in the morning before they'll pop back.
They're going to come back to bedding.
Well, if you're in their bed,
right,
and that's why you're having a hard time with that. You're going in there and you're hitting a spot where they're eating and they can visibly see you. Like, you would have to dang near come basically down this ridgeline to even try to get in there. And if they're feeding out here a lot, you may be able to slip in there in the morning, but that's still going to you're still going to have a real hard time. I mean, you're going to have to have the right wind.
This farm, that was the bad thing about it. There was no good
access
morning spot because it was 90% field.
Gotcha.
There was very, very small woods on this farm. Even this wasn't really woods. It was,
just a little thicket.
Yeah,
a little finger.
But they bedded majority on the neighbor's property.
Gotcha.
So,
I mean, and there's nothing wrong with the way that's set up. I think your head's in the right space with that. I really, really do. I mean, you've got pretty much a 360 opportunity at that spot. It's just like you said, when in the morning, it's I very rarely hunt over field in the morning. Like I don't do it. I don't know. I've done it in the past.
I've done it a handful of times, and
I've
never had any luck.
It don't work for me anyway. It never has. And if there is a strategy that you guys have out there as far as maybe helping that situation. I mean, now that you can see it firsthand, kind of from above. If there's a strategy, guys, that anybody's got out there, let us know. Like, put in a comment, something. Give me an idea on that, because I used to watch a lot of Bill Winke and what he does. And he would always have his son, come in there with a truck or something, or a tractor, but a lot of that was in the evening. I've very rarely seen it in the morning. So I'm wondering if there's a way to kind of sneak into some of these spots like that. Terrain, you're given what you're given.
Right.
You know what I mean? When you go to hunt a piece. And I think, like we talked about stand location, you got up and got out of your stand and you happened to be in a spot.
Yep.
And even if you were in that spot, say you were in that stand when all that was going on, you may not have even seen him.
I probably wouldn't have.
Right. I mean, if it's possible to see him from that lake, maybe move that stand up a little further. I mean, there's all kinds of different things you play through your head, that try to. It's like the little, you always hear that expression, the little things.
Right.
It's the little things.
Yep.
Stand movement. Like I had one last year with a buddy of mine. Jim helped me. A good buddy of mine named Jim. He helped me position different stands. It was great. It was great to have him out here last year, because it was, I was like, hey, I need to move a stand. But I had a spot that I sat behind our lake, and I'd watch several deer at like 80 yards moving this spot, like several of them. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm literally 30 yards from all the action. Like if I was 30 yards further in another tree, I'd have done tagged out. You know what I mean? Like I was 30 yards from all this action. And
I've been there.
Before, I would have just stayed. Like honestly, before I started doing the whole, get comfortable and if you're gonna move, but wait for that deer movement to go through. Get out as quiet as you can. If you have to belly crawl in a sense like you did, those little things, take your time getting in there, in those spots, because the worst thing you can do is bump one, and then but if you're on the ground and you're low, they may not even know what you are.
Right.
If they bust you with their nose, then you're screwed. I mean, they're not going to come back for 3, 4, 5 days. At least that's what's happened to me. They do come back. Bucks, big mature bucks, if you're hunting that buck nest, chances of him coming back to that buck nest, probably not likely for at least 3 weeks. It's just about what it has happened for me.
Right.
But you learn the hard way. I mean, like when you get a good aerial of what you're looking at when you're doing stuff like that, it explains everything of why they do what they do, because they know they can go there and see you. They know they can bed in that spot, come out and eat a little bit, grab some water, and they know if they got you. They got you before you can get in there.
Oh yeah.
So like when you guys go back for Kansas this year, how many stand locations you guys have really in Kansas? Or is
none.
None right now. Oh, you guys haven't been out yet.
No, we just hunt on the ground in Kansas. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, actually, we're wanting to put a couple stands up this year, because the farm we're hunting, if we get to hunt it this year, it's super hilly. I mean, the terrain on it is just like up and down, and it's old. I think they did old crop farm on it years ago. But like I was saying earlier, they just run cattle on it for the most part now, besides in the wintertime. But yeah, it's super hilly, and there was the spot I was sitting at. I think the first 2 days this past season, I was sitting over this little pond, and I had a hill behind me and a hill in front of me, and I was just pretty much looking at that pond. I missed so many deer, I guarantee it, because Craig was probably 400 yards just up from me, and he was seeing deer all over, and he's like, dude, they're running up and down this valley, kind of.
Yeah.
And I was in the same valley pretty much, but it kind of splits, and they can go on one side or the other side. And I only seen 2 deer that first day, I think. And I was like, dude, I need to find a different spot. I need to get up higher somewhere where I can see, because they're just going over. They're behind these hills, you know. They're going in these like little ridges and steep creeks or whatever, you know.
Mm-hmm. Well, that
just
seems
slipping through, you know.
Yeah, and a deer will use less path resistance, and at the same time, when they start hearing those shots pop off and stuff like that, it seems like, you know, even at my farm, they do the same thing at my farm.
Yeah,
like there's big valleys, and they're right in the middle of the field, and they'll be in there. And the thing that sucks about some of those big valleys though is you get into them, then you got swirling winds down in there. You know,
Yep.
so there's a reason that they use that. It's an alert thing, man. They know that they can, where their corridors are and where they're safe.
That
they
spot
do.
Craig was sitting at, man, he was tucked up in this little hillside, like the sand hillside. Had a creek 3 yards in front of him, and he dug a little hole out where he's just sitting like almost body flush with that hill, and he had deer coming 3-4 yards right in front of him.
Really?
He had deer all over him.
I wonder if his thermals were pulling through that creek. You know, like pulling away. Like I have a spot that I'll let, you know, do you ever use any of the, you know, like, what do they call that? I can't even think of the name of it. I call it windicator when I go out, but not the, what do they call
Talking
that?
about like a
little milkweed or looking thing. It's like a little pod.
okay. Yeah.
I can't, I
know what you're talking about.
But I take that religiously with me where I
just
go.
use the powder.
Oh, you gotta use that. I'm telling you, change that up, because I did that last year. I was a diehard, you know,
Right.
Wind's going that way. Great. Well, it might go that way for 30 yards till it hits a hillside or a creek bed or something pulling that in the evening versus the morning. My buddy Corey talked about that last year. That's how he got busted. He said, I had no idea my thermal was pulling down in there. And I said,
it'll be blowing that way, and all of a sudden it goes.
Yep. It'll kick out. Mm-hmm. And you can look at terrain. Like when I do, like I said, I do a lot of observation sitting in that off season. And I'll go in there, you know, and me and Chad do a lot of it too, where we'll go and we'll scrape a spot completely flat, and see what kind of movement comes back through there in 4 or 5 days. But at the same time, we'll drop those little. Oh man, I wish I knew what the name of those were. It's gonna drive me nuts. Anyway, they'll sit, and your wind's blowing perfect, and all of a sudden it kick back.
Yep.
And I've had it come all the way back to
Circling.
me. All the way back to me. And it's like, okay, I cannot sit this.
Yeah.
And then you're sitting in that tree going, man, this is a great spot, because you're blowing it's blowing past you, but it's going 15 yards and then doing something different. You know, that's why, you know, I like using that where I can flick it out and I can watch it, because you got nothing but time in there anyway. And if you're really trying to figure out a spot, and the wind might be coming out of the north or the south or wherever it's coming out of, but that doesn't mean that's what it's doing in the specific location that you're hunting.
Right.
And if you're hunting a lot of ridges, which is what I do, I hunt a lot of ridges, you know, mid-ridge. It's like literally where I like to be. I'm telling you, you'll notice it. And it's wild, because you'll see the paths.
I've definitely noticed it. And a lot of stands I've sat.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
and you'll see the paths, like what's moving through. You know, I always get confused when I see, or I used to anyway. I used to get confused when I'd see 4 or 5 different paths.
Right.
But crossing, I'm like, well, which way are they coming from? Which way are they going?
Playing on wind direction, probably.
Yep.
Yeah.
And they're just like us. We have different staying locations.
Right.
They got different paths for their different wind.
I mean, makes sense.
When you throw that wind indicator out there, and I'll even throw a stand that's an alternative. I'll go out there in that first set and see what it does in north. I'll wait for a south wind, and I'll go out there early summer and see what it does in the south. And I'll set a stand to that wind direction. And I know if I get in that stand and I'm out of a north wind and I throw it out and all of a sudden it kicks back, get out of that spot, go over to that other tree, hit it out, wind will work perfect. I'm like, all right, cool. Now I know where I need to set tonight.
That's the spot. Yeah.
And a lot of times, like, another little tip is I don't know if you have a running gun stand, which I call running gun, with your sticks and like a lone wolf or something, or, you know, anyway, you can use a hawk stand, whatever you want to carry in. But I carry a stick stand in with me.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I'll sit at the base of the tree
Yeah.
or a
I've
creek
done
bed.
that.
And
Yeah.
if I don't like where I'm at in my permanent stand that I hung, or the wind just doesn't work out that day, I'll get out and go find out where the wind works for that location.
Yeah.
But you got to get in there early enough to do that. That's kind of a thing that's hard for most everyday people, because you got work and everything like that. You don't have that time to really make that adjustment sometimes, because you're getting in there at 4 o'clock or getting there at 3:30. And it's like, okay, I got to get to a spot.
Mm-hmm.
I have those spots too. You know what I mean? But like that running gun. You talk about Kansas, and you said I don't have too many hung. Take that with you.
I plan on hanging one this year. I honestly thought about bringing my bow.
That'd be sweet.
Because Kansas.
I'm probably going to come out with you guys too. When you guys get your
awesome.
Kansas trip, let me know what dates, because I'm going to try to come out and film with you and stuff. I'll probably get behind you or whoever needs a camera guy that night or needs help. That night I'll try to make some time to come out with y'all and do that. It'd be fun.
So my brother Colby, he went with us. My other brother, he went with us this past year. He didn't hunt; he just filmed.
Yeah.
And he's never, really killed a big deer. He killed a nice one, probably 120 inch, I'd say. That's his biggest. But he hasn't hunted much the last few years. But he got, he put in with us. We don't know if we got drawn yet, but hopefully. So hopefully he gets a good one this year.
If he gets drawn, I'm definitely going to come with you guys a few days. At least I'm going to try to be up there at least a few days with you guys.
I'm confident he'll kill a 120 plus. It was funny, man. The first couple of days we were hunting, he was filming me. And we had bucks. We had a couple of them just come right up on us, like 8 or 9 yards. And he's just staring there, just looking at us, because I hit
doing
him.
the whole bobblehead where they're like, what is that guy doing? What is
looking
that?
at us, and he took off, and Kobe's like, man, I would have shot him.
I would have shot him.
I was like, oh, no.
No.
There's way bigger deer than that here. But he's like, oh, man, yeah. He's like, if I was hunting, he'd been dead. But I was like, oh, dude, yeah, we'll get you one next year.
That's the best part. Okay, that's probably one of my, if not my favorite part about hunting.
Yeah.
Like, and I say this all the time, so people are probably tired of me hearing me say it, but I have more fun getting behind somebody filming them than I do hunting myself.
I love it.
The reaction I get from somebody, like when they shoot that and the shake's starting and you're you're like, they're like, oh, I'm getting goosies just talking about it right now. But like, I'm telling you, dude, there's
it's
nothing
awesome.
more fun than watching somebody have success.
Yep.
Like, to me, and to all those guys out there that are that haven't done it. If you haven't started filming with the kids or you haven't done something like that, I know we always talk about living in the moment, and I'm all about that, not having the cameras and stuff like that. But, Chad, my good buddy Chad, makes a really good point. He's like, a memory will fade over time. Mm-hmm. He's like, I can look back at every single hunt I've done with my kids. Every single hunt with my kids.
I was telling my
buddy
buddy
that. And I can relive it with them or laugh about it at Christmas.
I won't ever go in the woods. I won't go hunting again without a camera, dude. You have that hunt, you'll have you get to watch the hunt
as many times as you want, or a buddy come over, or
right.
And honestly, and the biggest thing I started filming for I didn't even start filming for that personally.
Right.
I started filming, different bucks different hunts when I was trying to learn what I was doing wrong. Mm-hmm. To all you guys out there that don't take a camera, get you a GoPro, get whatever, get you any kind of, even your phone,
even like a Tacticam camera on your bow.
Yep. It will teach you things that you didn't think.
A GoPro would be best to watch yourself.
Yep.
That's.
Yep. Yeah. And on top of it, like I've hunted spots where I've had nice deer come in and I get in full draw, and I'm not paying attention to anything else but that deer. And that's where I screwed up.
Yep. I was about to say, I've done the same thing, man.
And then you go back over that footage and you see other does or something else, and you're like, oh, man, that's what I did. That's why I spooked that
My
up.
first year, I've been self-filming for probably, 3 or 4 years now. And, I'm still learning every time. But my first 2 years, man, it was tough. Like I'd see a deer, and then I'm like reaching for the camera. And I'm like, oh, wait, I got to slow down, slow movements. And then I get on them, and I'm focused on him, and all of a sudden I do a little movement and there's a deer standing right here, and I'm like, nope. I'm busted.
And like a lot of people would be like, well, you got busted because he's moving the camera. No, I got busted because it doesn't matter if that camera is there or not. Right. I am not. I've been so oblivious over the years. Once that buck comes in that you're after, you get excited. You're like, oh man, I'm gonna have a shot. And it's like you chuck everything out the door.
Calm down and still be aware.
I think filming helps you with that though.
Yeah, it does.
I think it teaches you, like it's like, okay, reaching for a bow, so the beginners, get out there, use a camera.
everything. You know.
Yep.
I've had deer. I think it was 2 years ago. I was hunting the farm I killed him on. I was hunting a stand that couldn't have been 8 foot up in a tree, and it was kind of on a slight hill. So when they were in front of me, they were probably 6 feet below me, and I climbed up late, and it was already light, and I had like 4 young bucks come out in front of me, and they were just right in front of me. I mean, I could have spit on them.
Right.
Never once smelt me, seen me, or anything. I'm sitting there filming them like 6 feet, like probably 15 feet from them. But it was awesome.
And and like that's another thing that when it comes to that filming thing, you're like the great Fred Bear say, the outdoors will cleanse your soul.
Oh yeah.
I say that so many times. Like honestly, like tree therapy is probably one of the biggest things in my life. Like it keeps me level headed. It gives me time to think. It gives me it's that necessary break.
Yeah.
Like that you need from everyday life. And then when you can be able to get on there and film it and eventually get good enough to where, your filming doesn't get in the way of your hunts, because it's going to happen. Like I'm not sitting saying there when you go out there with a camera the first time or even the first 20 times, you're going to have it practice down. Because it does. You're going to get busted. They're going to notice you. The only thing you can do in that sense is adapt you to the surrounding, and this isn't a commercial pitch right here, but I'm hoping that WTF does that for us this year. Right. Because I've seen several. I think I'm going to get into a little bit more saddle hunting this year too, because I've seen some of the stuff off there. You can hang on the side of a tree. You do that in regular camo, you look like a blob in November. I'm serious. You look like I went back and really dissected that, and then you look at those guys. You could hang off that tree and still look darn near like you can't be seen.
That breakup.
It's just that breakup.
It's not a blob. It's more of just a breakup.
Yeah, they're like they really get confused, looking. Like what is that? And it gives you enough time. And so hopefully we're gonna find out this season. All of us we're pretty well.
I'm
one of the best partnerships I've ever had in this industry, and I think it's gonna be really cool to see what that stuff does. I'm excited to see what they come out with. Prior years from now, I think they said they're gonna try to get on some cold gear, winter gear next year in 23. But they're just
that'll be awesome.
They're young. Oh, I can't wait! I can't wait. And they're stuff that I like I said, the stuff that I got this last time was it's heavy stuff. Like I was
thinking summer gear.
Yeah,
I like it. It's good quality, and
it's going to be great mid gear. You could I mean, even if you buy the stuff now, you'd be able to get it a size bigger than what you'd normally get for your jacket and throw you a Carhartt or something underneath it or something warm or a hoodie. Heck, their hoodie is just as heavy and warm too. I was like, dang, this is great stuff. Yeah. But like we talk about that getting break up and breaking yourself around those surroundings. That's in my opinion that's probably the most important part.
For sure.
Like when it comes to getting in the trees, you always talk about like Dan Infalt. I'm gonna put out there Dan Infalt, bud. He talks about with his beast gear that he came out with. It gets you into trees that you can't get into with anything else, and it talk about breakup all the time. So he talks about all the time. I can't get into a tree that's 2 foot, 3 foot, 4 foot around and have that silhouette. I mean, obviously, if you have that silhouette and you've got a good camo for that, great. But that tree's not going to be where you need to be every time.
Right. Oh, yeah.
And as soon as I started stick hunting and those running gun stands, dude, I haven't even looked back. I use those for my regular stands. Like, I don't even hang. I usually don't even hang unless it's a gun stand or, just an extra stand that I have laying around in a spot that I need.
I pretty much use the sticks.
That's
almost everything.
I mean, I'll put them out there before the season starts.
I'll throw them wear them like a backpack and throw my stand on like a backpack. I'll just ratchet it together and I just take off.
Yep. And dude, it changes the game.
Saddles
you can get into whatever tree.
A little easier, but I mean,
have you done a lot of have you done much saddle hunting?
Never
done
a saddle.
See, I've only done it one time, and I didn't. It wasn't mine. I used a buddy's, but it was pretty sweet.
I'll have to try it out. I hear a lot of good things about them, but I don't know. I prefer to sit down most of the time, and
you on the ground or
no, just sit. In a stand, and then I like having a big platform. That's my big thing for my feet. Big platform,
Well, you can move around and maneuver,
But I mean, I've never tried a saddle, so I'll have to try it out.
That platform size is going to be a change for you.
Yeah,
in a
definitely.
Saddle. And you'd think you'd get wore out,
right?
Like it's weird.
Kind of uncomfortable,
awesome
You got that pressure on you,
You'd think it'd wear you out, but
it'd be a long. I feel like it'd be a long day sitting all day.
If you sat all day, I'm sure.
When I hunt Ohio, I do a lot of all day sits, and I feel like that might be a little tough.
That's why I haven't dove into it. That's one of the big reasons I haven't dove into it. I think I'm going to this year, just like I said, because it's lighter It's an easier thing to carry out, especially if I'm going to be jumping and doing some of these public land areas where I can't necessarily get in preseason and put stuff in. And obviously, you can't on public land in most states. I mean, you can't just leave stuff out there. But, yeah, those, the whole saddle thing, I think, with this camo company that we got now, I am going to try it this year because it does. It breaks you up like I've seen those guys were sitting in tree stands and they weren't up against a tree.
Right.
None of them were. Like, none of them were up against a tree. Not one person in those pictures were up against a tree. And there weren't even leaves on the trees. And I was having a hard time paying attention to it. And I'm stoked. I'm excited to see what that stuff does this fall. I'm excited to trick some deer this fall.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking about going out and testing it out in the woods, go sit in a few stands and see how close I can get. You know?
Yeah. I'm gonna
maybe sit on the ground a little bit.
Oh yeah. I'm definitely gonna be doing
evenings.
some ground setting.
It's a little hot right now, so
yeah, I'm definitely gonna be doing some ground hunting. Obviously, I do a lot of ghillie hunting this year or throughout the season. That's just I started it 2 years ago, man, and I will never look back. I will never look back.
I need to get me a ghillie.
It's fun, dude. I'm telling you, and I haven't killed anything big yet. I can't even sit there and say I've killed anything big yet with it. But I've had some real close encounters with some good deer, and it's the only reason I didn't capitalize is because I went in the wrong time of season. I feel like if you're going to ghillie, try to do a lot of that ghillie in the preseason or late season.
I think so because it's easier.
You can't do it during the rut.
Coming to and from food, Yeah. In the rut, you don't know,
Well, getting them stopped.
Right.
And then you're ground level with them during the rut. That's why I don't do a lot of it during the rut with the ghillies. If you guys try it out sometime during that, I guess, maybe I'll try it out and let you know how it works. But for those ghillies, like at early season, those buck nests, freaking.
Oh yeah.
I can't even tell you how much fun it is.
I think this alternative season, I'm gonna go ghillie hunting in a bedding area, but I'd really like to go with a pistol.
Chad was trying to do one with a pistol last year. Oh man,
that's what I want, man. I'd love to get one with a pistol.
What kind of pistol you got or what?
357.
357.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, that'd be sweet. Get a little. You don't even need a scope at that point. I mean, if you don't want to. But
I don't have one. I mean.
Get a red dot maybe or something like something you can mount maybe, but I don't even know if you
20 yards or closer,
Oh yeah, I mean I've done it with a crossbow a ton of times with on the ground like that, But we talk about all the time with this concealment. It's concealment. Who's got the best brands out there? Who's got this? I think it doesn't matter necessarily the camo company, the camo that you use. It's what are you doing that makes you comfortable and outfit yourself in that sense.
Right.
I'm not sitting there saying I have a specific camo set for each hunt, but in the same sense, I kind of do.
Yeah. I mean, I know what you're saying. Like if you're hunting like a grassy bedding, compared to tree line, it's different.
You have to use different stuff. You can't wear a ghillie suit up in a tree. You're going to look like a Sasquatch sitting up there hanging from a tree. Yeah. But I mean, like I talk about all that, we concealment and getting into a stand and what's your approach to getting in, those are all things if you have a home farm,
right?
When you get outside, like we talk about traveling these states and you don't have the opportunity to go out there every single day or not even necessarily every single day because nobody goes out there to spot every single day, but I'm saying like you don't have a way to just on the drop of a hat go change something. If you see a deer activity or deer movement, what I've been told as far as hunting different states, if you do have private land you are hunting, like we said, put those cameras in wide angle areas where you may not be able to go move that stand, but you can go, man, I watched him pass by that tree where I could set my ghillie suit up and I know I can sit there and get away with it.
So I got a few spots. You're talking about like wide angles, I've never done it before, but I see a lot of people putting two cameras, like kind of button up, one facing this way, one facing that way.
Yep.
Sorry. But I'm going to do that this year. I got a few spots up north where like I've had cameras facing this way and so much, you miss so much that comes out right here. I might get just a clip of them. So I'm going to put cameras back to back, I think, and see what's coming out, if there's
both
more
ways.
activity on this side
In
or more
corridor,
on this side, see where they're, going. But yeah, that's something I definitely want to do.
And we talk about trail camera placement too. Like, that's something we haven't really touched on a lot on the show, is trail camera placement.
Right.
You guys got some awesome ideas to holler at us. We want to know. We want to know what's worked for you in the past. That's a great point. Back to back. I'd never thought of that back to back. And I've had areas like that. Now that I'm thinking about it, I've had areas just like that.
Especially on like heavy trails, or like four-way intersections or something. You kind of see which way. You know.
Position him. And I talked to a friend of mine, recently made friend from up North Michigan, and he specializes in that. He's going to be on the show, hopefully, I think August 6th. He's going to be rounding up the big Buck Chronicles for us. But he specializes in deer movement and how he can manipulate a property to make deer move the way you want. And when I got on the phone, I thought I'm going to talk to this guy for 20 minutes and we're going to have the same. No, he's on the phone for like 2 hours. And some of the stuff he was saying, I'm like, I never even thought about UV light.
Yeah.
Never thought about it. Never once thought about UV light and that it's catching a deer's attention. Obviously, it's off up in the air, but if it's not a threat on the ground, it looks like a leaf. Why wouldn't UV be something a deer would see and be like, oh, what is that? And he said he's been able to manipulate these spots and almost get these deer on a certain corridor, and then he stays out of them and goes in there and those stays, and then he does what he does, and I'm like, that's pretty wild. He's got a new product that he's actually manufactured himself. It's kind of similar to how do I say it? It's like a rubbing post almost, but it's made with an artificial UV enhanced leaf, so that when a deer comes into a field, that UV puts off an aura.
Right.
And they always say don't use UV
stuff. Right.
UV stuff.
Yeah.
But he said I've had so many deer hit that UV looks like leaves.
That's weird.
And they'll go out there and see it and be like, "What is that?" And they'll cross the field
out
to see
or something.
Yep.
Or,
they'll cross the field.
I got to check
it.
that out.
Well, same thing with pronghorn sheep. I've heard guys out west say that they use pie pans.
Really?
Put pie pans on a stringer, and that wild little light that comes off of it, it intrigues them, and they'll go check it out. And so he's like, well, maybe something's.
I mean,
up
they're
there.
curious,
They are. They're
curious.
It
makes sense.
But if it doesn't seem like a threat,
right?
I don't know. I haven't tried it myself. I've done several mock scrapes. That's what he's, like I said, he specializes in vines, stuff like that. And getting those deer to come to the corridors you want them to come to.
I do a lot of cameras over scrapes. I mean, I would say
perennials or just scrapes you make, mocks or perennials, or both.
Either or.
Both.
Yeah, like when I was shed hunting this year up on this farm, I found a giant scrape. I mean, probably 3 times the size of this table.
So big perennial, you think?
And yeah, I didn't even know it was there. I found it and I'm like, well, I'm definitely hanging a camera over this scrape this coming year. And it was fresh too. I mean, it's like a all year round scrape.
Right.
So yeah, I'm gonna put one over that and see what's hitting it. That's a killer spot. It's actually not too far from
where you found it.
Yeah,
let's talk about these guys a little bit.
Yeah.
These things, this guy is an absolute hammer. I mean, my arm, it's about covered my hands up.
24-inch beams.
24-inch beams, but look at the palmation on here. I'll get up close over here for you guys. Look at that. That is insane. That's as big as my hand, pretty much.
Not much height on them, but
oh, dude, it don't matter.
Dude,
that mass.
He's
I'm
a lot
all about
bigger
mass.
So we had pictures of him. I mean, all year long. He lived on that farm, and I was like, he's 138. He might be 142.
Now you underestimated this guy.
And big time. And I found his sheds. Man, they were laying side by side, like 6 inches apart. And I mean, the moment I saw him, I was like, oh my gosh, that's him. And I mean, I picked him up and I was like, wow, he's a lot bigger than I thought. He scored. I gave him a 16-inch spread, I think.
16-inch spread?
Yeah, or 15 and a half, something like that. I think he scored 148 right at it.
Jeez.
So he's definitely on my hit list this year.
So he's on your hit list along with.
I got 2 other bucks.
Okay.
One bigger than him. He's a Big 10, and I know he made it. I didn't find his sheds, but I think his sheds are on the neighboring.
Is he
farm.
just? You think? Yeah, he's bedding and
they run around together a lot. I mean, they're on the same farm.
I had 2 bucks like that last year.
Yeah.
Did that.
But I never found his sheds. That's actually the buck I was going up there. Him and the other one. And then there was a buck we got on camera quite a few times early season. He was probably about 160. And if he made it, he'll be a dandy.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
I mean, already 160. And if he made it, so I'll have him, this guy, and then that Big 10. That Big 10 was probably 155. This year.
I got 2, possibly 3. We had an old guy named we nicknamed him John Cena. Just a huge bodied deer. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like this guy, where it's like several times I looked at him like, man, that's an old mature buck.
Yeah.
Like that he is, but he don't look that impressive. I actually seen him on a hoof
Giant
and was upset. I was upset that it happened so fast, type of thing, and I seen him from a distance. I'm like, oh, it's just him. He's gonna walk by, whatever. he got into that range, and I really wasn't paying attention because there was another deer, and I didn't know if it was a buck or doe or what. So I started paying attention to that one instead of knowing, seeing this buck come through, and I knew who he was. And after he had got underneath my stand, I was like, oh man, I screwed up. He's heavy 10, probably 150s 10.
Oof.
Yeah. Dude, I was thinking, honestly, through trail cam pictures, because of body, when he got up there, his body's so big. Yeah. And I had another one, a big 9. Yeah. It was a big bully 9. And I sent the video to Chad. He was at 5 yards, 4 yards maybe underneath me in the tree. And I sent Chad a video. And as this deer's walking away, that's when I started.
That's when they look their biggest too.
I know. I rattled and grunted that buck, and he was a real aggressive buck. And he came in, and I got to laughing at it afterwards. And Chad's like, "You're gonna regret that." Yep. And I was like, "You think?" And he's like, "No, you're already regretting it. I know you are." And I'm like, "Yeah, I kind of am." Just a big body deer. You look at like this guy. You're right. I mean, that's an impressive rack, but he is huge. Yeah, body is huge on this deer.
His body's more impressive than his rack, for sure. I mean, that's. Like I was telling you, my brother, he's been doing taxidermy for 14 years, and that's the biggest body deer he'd ever mount. I mean, he's
mounted. I said it in the show. Like when I was watching you, after you sent me that video of, shooting him, and you got down in that hole with him, I'm like, my gosh. Yeah, I was like, he's going to need a tractor.
I couldn't get him out by myself.
No,
man.
I bet not.
Even gutted. I mean, because that hole he fell in was probably like a 4-foot crater.
Yeah, just a little washout.
Oh, yeah. Man, it was a hard time getting him out of that.
I guarantee it. What'd you say? What was his neck? What'd you say his neck was when he was done?
33.
33. Yeah. I wish I could. I'm gonna move a little bit so you guys can see it. I mean, just a freaking hog of a deer. I mean, and honestly, like when you see those deer that are like that, them just big bodied deer. It's hard to judge him, dude.
He doesn't look impressive on camera. I mean, we had a lot of pictures of him, and I mean, I knew how big he was just because we had history with him. Yeah. But I mean, he looked like a 145-inch deer. Yeah. With his body.
Right. Right.
But yeah, he's.
What? This was, you took him down to. He was down there when we were at the. Or no, did you have him down there when we went to the Show Me Bucks?
I don't remember.
I don't remember if you did or not either. I think you had. I think you had a different buck.
I did. I think I had him. I had the buck I killed this past year.
You had Hollywood, right?
Hollywood,
I remember seeing.
And then I did take him, I'm pretty sure. And then I had the sheds that scored like 170.
The sheds that scored 170. I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. He scored 158 and some change, I think, net score.
Net. Okay. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. That other one I shot last year was I want to say 148 net, and then it ended up being, I think, 130 something after everything. He had like 14. I think he had 14 inches of deduction.
This guy was.
But he had a lot of trash. Like he's pretty symmetrical.
Oh, you're talking about that heavy one?
Yeah, real heavy buck over there, Voldemort buck.
Yep.
I mean, everybody looks at him like, oh man, that dude's gnarly. I'm like, no, he's gnarly, but he had a lot of deduction.
I hate them deductions, man. I think it's bull.
Well, and I don't really know how. There's really not a great way of doing it either. You know what I mean? There's been several different theories when it comes to scoring a buck of what they could do, what they don't do.
I think just give them credit for what they have.
Give them credit for what they have. I agree with you. I 100% agree with you. I think the only way that with that scoring, it does set things apart. But you got some deer out there that are bigger deer than some of the record holders. It's been a talk for a long time. Right. There are bigger deer than some of these record holders, and then they have that deduction system. Yep. It's like, so here's my thing with the deduction system. Why put it on there? Because that's not the deer.
Because I think they're trying to go for like the perfect, perfect buck.
Well, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. Look at that buck I shot 2 years ago. Right. He's
dang near perfect.
142 and he was 142 and I think 7/8 or something like that. And after deduction, he was 140 and 3/8, and after deduction, he was 140 and 7/8. Like he only had an inch and I think a half or inch and a quarter or something like that of difference. And he's beautiful. Don't get me wrong, he's like a beautiful buck, but if there's another buck that's bigger than him, and that deduction
has
comes
more
in there,
trash,
has more trash, and boy was bigger than him, but he didn't score bigger.
Right.
Voldemort was a bigger 5.5-year-old buck, but didn't score higher.
See, I don't
get
take deductions into my score.
Yeah, well, and a lot of people don't anymore. I mean, and a lot of people don't really care too much about record books anymore. Right. Like I don't. Especially with Pope and Young.
I'm going to shoot him.
Yeah. If he's if it gets your heart going, I'd say that to everybody. If it gets your heart going, you're adrenaline, who cares? Right. Like who cares what it scores? I mean, I'm an age person than I am anything.
Mm-hmm.
At least at this
too.
point. I didn't always used to be that way, but at this point in my career, yeah, I'm predominantly an age person.
Yep.
And like last year, I had a buck that I had several people look at that say, dude, that dude is 170s, 180s.
Yep.
And I'm like, you think? And he's like, no. And I've had other people say, oh, he's high 160s, maybe mid 170s, and I'm like, okay. And those guys, the guys that said the high 160s, mid 170s are probably more accurate because they've shot huge
Bigger
deer.
yeah.
Me and Charlie Nolan, who's coming on next week. I wish he was going to be here for that deer. Well, you got to hold that deer. The Charlie Nolan buck's going to be here.
Yeah.
So
that's a freak.
Yeah,
dude.
Like it don't even give you words.
That's the first buck when I went in there, I was like, yep.
That thing is nuts.
This thing is insane. Yeah.
I'd like to get a hold of that guy that had the big old 8 in there. I'd like to see if I could get him on.
One that scored like 190?
It was almost 190. It was 180, 80 something, I think.
189, because I was like, that's a 190-inch 8-point. That thing is
it was insane.
Giant.
It was
insane. It was clean, too, wasn't it?
Yep, all the way through. It didn't have hardly anything. That guy that was guy that was scoring it was even like, dude, this thing is
biggest 8 I've ever seen.
It was biggest 8 I'll probably ever see. Honestly.
Oh yeah, it was.
I don't
huge.
think I'll ever see another. I mean, it was absolutely insane. His bases were
just tall, wide, heavy.
Everything
perfect.
He had everything you could ask for on a buck.
I hate mainframe 8s, but I mean I couldn't let that one pass.
No, dude. Here's my thing on mainframe 8s, man. If he's a 140-inch 8, that's to me that's booning. That's a booner in the 8 world, in my opinion.
That's a stud.
It's huge. Yeah. You got typically if it is a 10, you're between 10 and 20 inches difference.
Right. Because I guess
you got. Depending on what however tall the fours are,
because I still think you still get 4 mass measurements on an 8.
Yeah. All that's the same,
mass,
but the
won't
extra
be as,
2 points there,
right.
And that's what usually puts a lot of these 10s in that 160 class.
You take his 4s off, that's at least 10 inches.
Yep, that guy in there would have been almost 14 inches off of his 4s. Yeah. He was 6 and some change on each of them, But yeah, you get into that age group too. That's another thing I talk about all the time is age group, and it's really hard. It's honestly really hard to keep different farms for me anyway. I have a hard time with that age thing because of the fall and the winter and the summer homes and I think that's where everybody talks about when it comes to management, and getting your property to a point where the age is a factor, but the age is easier to kind of hone on because that home range shrinks. But if you give them that all year supply of food, little nutritious things that they want to stay around, that old buck is going to stay there predominantly. He's not going to move unless you blow him out or push him out. That's
kind of what I got planned for this year on our family farm. We're getting crops in for the first time in 8 years.
Yeah,
I
that's
think.
what you're saying. 8. It's been a while.
We're getting beans this year, and I just put in a couple corn plots and
nice
sunflowers, and I did pumpkins. I'm gonna try pumpkins.
Yeah, you were telling me about that. So what's the thought behind the pumpkins? Like, is it just something that
I've heard pumpkins? I've heard deer love pumpkins, and I'm like, well, might as well try it. I had I had like 200 pumpkin seeds.
That turns out. I really want to know what
I'm gonna put cameras over it and see when they're hitting it.
What kind of pumpkins in general? Just big pumpkins or like small ones or
pumpkins?
He said just pumpkins.
Yeah, there were some seeds that we had, so I'm like, I'll just plant them and see.
Yeah. But, I mean, that is a curious thing. You think about different food sources.
Sunflowers,
they do.
Dude, I just planted those sunflowers less than a week ago. I went up there last night, dude. They're already this tall,
really?
Inch and a half tall. I'm like, wow. No, we've only had one light rain, so.
Yeah. So how much? So you're about what? 3 hours?
2 hours 20 minutes.
2 hours 20 minutes. Okay,
south of
here, towards St. Louis, right? Or
yeah,
towards Columbia. Like if you're going south, you're going straight south.
You know where Rolla is?
Yep.
I'm in between Rolla and St. Louis.
Okay.
So
closer
Farmington,
to Rolla, right?
No, just north of Farmington.
Okay.
Yep.
Just north.
On 44.
Okay. Yep. Yeah, that's a different. It's crazy. You go 2 hours of the terrain difference.
It is.
And
totally
people don't
different.
realize that up here in the Northeast.
Here you get
either.
all flat and river bottoms and big creeks. Down there.
The ridges here are big, but they're condensed.
You get
up where
I'm at. I'm like on the edge of like the Ozarks.
Yeah.
You just go south a little bit. It's like this, man. Solid woods too.
My friend last year, it was kind of funny. We were supposed to hunt the gun season together, and we both took time off. We both took everything. We were ready. We both went out opening morning and killed deer. Opening morning bucks.
Oh, yeah.
And he was down in southern Missouri, almost Arkansas border.
Wow.
And he ended up shooting a 124-inch deer down there. He had a 20-inch. was 20 inches wide. He said he wasn't planning on it. He's not like a hardcore hunter, you know.
I love wide bucks.
But dude, he said he goes, I rode my 4-wheeler down in there. I was just gonna kill some does that morning. I dropped my dad off, and I walk in there. I'm sitting there with my gun, and he goes, I didn't even have a buck on my radar because I was getting ready to come hunting Northeast Missouri with you. And he's and he had a buck. He had a giant 8. And he sent me a video of it when I was in the stand. And I'm like, why didn't you shoot that deer? He goes, oh, I did. I shot at him. I missed him.
Oh.
And I was like, well, why didn't you load another arrow? He goes, I dropped my arrows down.
Oh.
down. He said I had one shot. He said I went right over his back. He was, on an angle. And but yeah, he shot a huge deer for southern. He didn't even really realize, that's how
crazy.
big that was. I brought him. We got him taxidermist up here at the same place, mine and his. I got pictures of ours together. And the taxidermist's like, that's a good deer. And he goes, I shot that.
That's pretty good.
Down there.
Right.
And he goes, oh, man, that's a huge deer for down there.
Dude,
like,
it's crazy the difference of deer. You get
food.
southern,
Food,
middle Missouri, northern Missouri.
Corn and beans like crazy up here. I mean, and that's not including all the chicory and clover and alfalfa. And, I mean, just in general. I mean, there's a lot of food up here, a lot of habitat up here for deer to get big.
I think there's there's a lot of farmers or hunters up here, but there's also a lot of farmers that don't hunt. A lot of leased ground up here and a lot of leased ground only gets hunted a couple times a year.
Right.
Right. I know
it's because they got to take it off. They got rutcation. You know what I mean?
There's a lot of where is it at? Like up north, the farm. Well, not one of these farms, but all the surrounding property. I want to say probably close to 2,000 acres. These guys, they're from out of state. They only come hunt it once a year. 2,000 acres. I mean, them deer just live on that farm.
Live on it, yeah. Well, that's like, Corey, we talked about.
Not pressure,
Yeah. Corey, my buddy, he bought a 19-acre sliver. He's killed 160-inch deer, pretty much almost, pretty consistent out there. He's killed really big deer. He killed 160, I think it was 67 or something like that. Toad of a deer, And everyone's like, where are you? You must have a big farm. He's like, I hunt 19 acres. Yeah. He's like, but he's in the heart of a huge area, and he's got the best ridge out of that whole area within probably 2,000 acres of that area. He's got the best ridge out of all of them, and I'm like, I mean, it's insane.
Josh Bomar, you ever?
Josh Bomar, why does that sound familiar?
He hunts Iowa a lot, big hunter.
Okay, no, yeah.
I think he killed I want to say it was like 210 inches, could be somewhere around there, on 5 acres with a bow.
Oh, I know who you're talking about, Josh Bomar. He's kind of like a big buff dude, big old strong looking dude. Yep. I know who you're talking about.
5 acres, man.
He's killed a lot of big deer on small properties.
Dude.
On
he kills
small
giants
properties
every year.
But he puts a lot of effort into it.
Yeah.
He puts a lot of work. I mean, and
he's got the farms, man. That's for sure.
And the surrounding. I mean, me and Steven touched on that. Steven Fisher. We talked about that hardcore. When it's got quality deer management outside of your farm, and and I can't even stress that enough. Like, go talk to your neighbor.
Right.
But go talk to him, because if he's not on the same fence, or if he's just like, man, I go out there and I shoot about anything, so I don't get much time. Obviously, you go, okay, I can designate that area, as I know if I watch deer consistently go in there, probably not going to have a good chance of surviving. But you might have 6 or 7 other properties around that area that you can get on the same page with, and even one is better than none.
Right.
That you can get with a neighbor, and every time, even I treat like public land the same way I treat like my private. You know what I mean? If I see a person in the woods, I stop and talk to them. I don't see the point in not trying to be on the same page as the people hunting around you. I just think it's irresponsible. It's like, come on, we're using firearms, we're using this.
If I hunt public, if somebody stops and talks to me, or
100%.
I talk to them, I'll tell them, I seen a lot of deer over here, a couple of nice deer, I let this one walk or whatever. But
that deer right there, 137-inch deer. The only reason I shot that deer, I would have got him mounted if he wouldn't have broke off his 8 inches of tine off of his tube, but. That deer right there, I literally walked into a spot and I didn't know much about it, and there was an older gentleman, probably in his 60s. He said, I'm actually going to a spot that's really good, and I've been hunting it for about 40 years. And I was like, no joke. And he's like, do you want to hunt it? And I was like, well, yeah, I don't know anything about this spot. And he's like, well, I hope you get one. I could see him 150 yards down the way
bow
from
hunting?
me. I was bow hunting, yeah, and he was I was bow hunting. No, it was bow season. That's right. He did have I was thinking he had a gun, but he had a crossbow. He's an older gentleman. And literally it was like, go sit there. And I was like, that's cool,
Right.
I shot one. He shot 2 does, and I helped him get his does out of there. He helped me get mine out of there.
That's awesome.
Just cool. It was so awesome to sit down. That guy, he was tickled, man.
Yeah.
He's like, I can't believe you shot that deer. That's huge. I've never seen one like that here, but And I'm just, just those type of moments, that we have, even with your neighbors. Like I said, share that info.
Right.
Get out there, because the more quality management you have, with your neighbors, I think it doesn't just help the herd. It helps you. It helps, other animals. Get with your neighbors and try to do controlled burns. Do anything you can do to help your surroundings.
That's what I was.
It's going to help everybody.
I want to do a controlled burn. I was wanting to this late fall or this late winter before spring, but didn't get around to it. So
the controlled burns, it's better, I think, with helping the turkey population. From what I understand,
for sure.
I don't, I've watched several different things on that, but. Dude, the turkey population, man, is just like
that's
sad.
Our turkey population back home, I was saying earlier, is not good. We've got our property got logged, I think 6 years ago, and it's thick, dude. I mean, you'll drive through the trails, you can't see 10, 15 yards. It's so thick, and that's why I was wanting to do a burn, because we don't have many turkeys in there. Turkeys don't like thick woods, they like open.
they won't. Yeah, they won't.
And that's why. I want to do a burn just to open the woods up, clean it up. There's a lot of junk in there. And it's just so stupid thick.
Right.
But, it'll help the turkeys and the deer and just everything,
Right. And just the thing, like my buddy Corey was talking about too, doing some controlled burns and getting some of that stuff, figured out. And it actually made it easier to kind of plot those access points. When you do a controlled burn, you got a really good scape of what the ground really looks like after that.
Yeah.
And for what it is. And then you can go in and put your switchgrass to, your lanes of switchgrass in, or certain areas that you don't want to be seen or you want to be able to have. And I'm telling you, that switchgrass, like
I just
by far the best blocker for getting into stands, out of stands.
How tall does that get?
Dude's, oh, shoot,
10 foot?
Depends on where you're at. I've seen it. I've definitely seen it 10 foot.
Yeah.
Every bit of it. I mean, I've seen some areas you get into soggy river bottom areas, where its growth is not as tall because of root systems and whatnot. But most of the time it grows like crazy.
Probably 6 to 8 average, I'd say.
Average.
I just
well
planted
enough
some.
and it's thick.
Yeah.
And it's a real thick. I can't think of that guy's name. He's big time in the industry for strategy up in, I think it's Wisconsin. He's from Jeff Sturgis. I never paid attention to any of that going in and out. I'm not even going to sit here and lie. I never paid much attention to it. Going in and out. I just try to be quiet and not have a wind that worked against me. Then you get to watching some of those stuff like Jeff Sturgis was talking about, switchgrass. And I was like, what is switchgrass? You know what I mean? When I first heard about it. And then I used it for 2 seasons. I was like, holy crap. Like, that
really
made
helps.
a world of difference.
Yeah.
Well, it made a world of difference too. It made the deer more comfortable.
Yeah.
They had these lanes you could cut out. And like I said, almost get them to that point where they were on, like you could almost generate where you wanted them to walk.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a great thing to add if you don't got it.
I just planted a bunch. We don't have anything like that around my farm, family farm. But I just took a whole, I would say probably about a half acre out. It was just thick, solid woods pretty much. I went in there and with a skid steer and cleared it all, made it solid field, and sowed some switchgrass and blue stem and whatnot in there. Yeah. And it's coming up just about a month ago. It's already about 2 inches tall. So
it really takes off. It really takes off once it's in.
It's going to be, I'm just doing that mainly for bedding because, so our neighbor, they don't hunt. They have 80 acres that butt up to us. And, there's a lot of deer. They have a big hillside that comes down, and that hillside comes into a creek bottom, which that bedding area that I just planted is right next to that creek bottom, down in that bottom off that hill.
Yeah.
And then that goes straight into our fields, which is beans.
So you got a heck of a pinch there.
I'm going to try and keep them bedded right there in between the, they got water on the neighbors because there's a pond there.
Right.
And then they got food right here. So I'm going to try and keep them down there in that little bottom.
That'll be a heck of a rut spot. Like if you got, and that's something that I talk about more than anything. Like I know it sounds weird. I'm not a massive rut hunter.
Yeah.
I'm like I feel like I'm one of the very few people that I'm not. It's not that I'd have anything against the rut. I have nothing against the rut. I think it's a great opportunity to get bucks up on their feet in situations they wouldn't normally be in. Here's my thing, though. When you've got that buck cruising behind a doe, I love watching that hot doe come through, but good luck stopping that deer when you need him to stop. And I've ran into that more times than I have.
I'm the same way.
I'd like to. So when you create areas like that, you're creating a section where it is an area where they're cruising through, but they're not substantially going to be looking at me and you when we go meh. But what they will do is they will hit water when they can. during that area. So like when I go around the rut, if I'm going to hunt anything around the rut, I have to have water right next to where I want to hunt. Like right next to it. Everybody talks about hunting around water. Yep. Everybody talks about hunting around water during early seasons because of the heat. They're going to be drinking, obviously.
Yeah.
But they don't think of. I feel like a lot of people don't think about that whole waterway
during the rut. No, I mean, it makes sense. You think they're running.
He's going to back that doe up, and I religiously believe this. He's going to back that doe up. I've watched it happen. I don't know how many times. Back her up to a waterway, and run her back and forth. And that's why I'm a huge the next property that I'm able to get at some point. I'm hoping the next few years I can get me a nice good will be a river bottom farm with a peninsula. I won't settle for anything less. I'm just telling you, those river bottom peninsula farms.
Peninsulas, man.
Just leave it all, switch, grow, and that, just
that piece I was telling you about 300 acres. It's like nobody can get to it besides that one person. It's a peninsula, man. The river just winds like this. It's got river on north, south, and the east.
During a rut, you will not find a better spot. So you won't. And I've hunted several spots. There was a nice 14 point that I had a few years ago on my grandparents' farm. And I was lucky. I was fortunate enough to go out down there and try to hunt him, and I did see him. I just wasn't in the right spot necessarily. And yeah, dude, he came just like clockwork, crossed this low crossing spot, came into an area, hit the peninsula, drove a doe right back into there. Seen him do the same thing coming right back out, not 2-3 hours later. And that was at 2:00. They ran her back out at 4. And so it's like, those. It just seems like those river bottom, water. If you got a good water source that you can back, and then bucks can back does into, do not pass that up on the rut. If I'm gonna hunt a rut spot, that's where I'm gonna go. Waterway. Early season for me, honestly, I try to find beans if I can find beans.
Dude, I love beans.
Late season, corn.
I just started hunting over beans and corn just a couple of years ago, man, and that's a game changer.
It is a game changer. I'm not a big fan of beans just because of how fast they come out.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's dependent.
See, I like beans better than corn.
Really? Yeah. What? Okay, so why?
Early season. Like you said, late season. That corn. I love it.
That corn is king in the late season.
I like beans though, man. I love early season hunting. I like late season too, but
there's something to be said about shooting a good deer early season too, because it is more of a challenge.
Right.
I 100%
think so.
agree. It's
you got the heat and everything too.
Well, heat, wind swirls. That seems to be a lot more. You're not getting true winds coming out of north. There's a lot. And when it comes to late season for me, I predominantly try to hunt north winds. Yeah. Winds coming out of the north. Northwest is generally how my farm sets up well. I've got a few farms where I can hunt linear, north and south at the same time. But generally, yeah. I don't try to go out of my way to, have a specific regimen, I guess, for certain parts of the season, but at the same time I do. I know it sounds maybe odd, but like I do. I'm very big into hunting, late season around corn and the rut around, waterways.
Yep.
I don't know how everybody else does. Like I said, put in the comments, guys, if you got other ways and other thoughts. This is what this show's about, is finding out, the different options that you're going to have, or, something you didn't think about that you have on your own home farm or a piece of private or public or whatever you're doing. That's what this is all about. It's for you guys to go, okay, let me try that. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. If it works, great.
Right.
Awesome.
It might, definitely not going to work every time, but
it's
going to work.
Well, we said that earlier.
Stick to it.
To the deer.
Right.
There's so many aspects you got to look at when it comes to hunting. I hunt specific deer.
Yeah.
Like especially on my farm. I don't try to hunt 6 or 7 or have a four person hit list. Way. I look at a deer that I like. Obviously there's some bullies in there and some other bucks that I'll shoot off there, genetic wise and stuff. But typically, if I find a deer that, I'm hunting him. Like the Vander's been the buck I've been after for 2 years.
Yeah.
And if he shows up this year, he'll be 6.5 to my knowledge. And like I said, he's 170s. I'd be happy saying 170s is what I'd say. Yeah. And if he made it through, it's going to be a deer of a lifetime. And he's beat me. He's beat me several times. And I've had opportunity. I had him at 54 yards last year.
All it takes is one time, man.
Dude, I had him at 54 yards last year. Toast at 54 yards. Coming into a decoy, bristled up, and I had an unfortunate event of somebody coming up the driveway.
Oh yeah.
And I was hunting back behind that. You'll see
You
it today.
said it
You'll see it today when we go out there to take photos.
Yeah.
Like I'm telling you, dude.
You were talking about that a couple weeks ago.
Talk about
with somebody.
Yeah.
And I remember. Yeah.
Dude,
Gosh, that sucks.
made me want to throw up. I mean, and that you look at it, you look at that, and that's why that's why I hunt the deer that I hunt at this point.
Man.
Because now I got history with that guy.
Yeah.
Or more than I've got history with him for several, a couple years now. But when you get that kind of history where he burns you, and you're like,
when you know you should have had him.
And then you get those bucks that'll leave like that, and you think, they're gone forever. I'm not going to see them for a season or two, and then they come back, and it's like just that history for me. That's where I'm at in my hunting career. I like that history. I like, letting them get old, that genetics, and just building a better deer herd in general.
I'm the same. I like, I won't shoot them. I'm kind of an age guy. I won't shoot them if they're 4. I mean, I wouldn't even have shot this guy this year. I told everybody. One. I'm like, I ain't shooting him. I didn't even hunt this farm once this year. But we got him. Like you said, you usually go after one buck, maybe 2.
Yeah, specific.
That's me. And the good thing is, the spot on this farm, the dead center of this farm is like just heavy trails and just a ton of deer movement. And they actually come from the north side of our neighbors because they bed. They got like a patchy cedar area they love to bed in. And then they hop that fence. We got a small little bean or corn, whatever it is, field right there. And then it's woods. And then on the other side of that woods, it's field again. And they just stay in between the bedding and that big field, which there's that small field too. That they eat in.
Well, they can go out there and kind of get a feel.
They feel
for the
safe
area.
in there because it's surrounded by woods and bedding.
Yep.
And that's right where I found his sheds. And that's where that.
If you don't go after him this year, something's wrong.
Oh, I'm going after him or that other one.
That dude.
And
that dude.
They kind of run the same area,
Because imagine what he's going to look like here if he's that big this year. That formation.
I mean, if he grows 15 inches, I mean, he's going to be what is that? 163.
I think he's probably going to be bigger than that.
That's if he grows 15 inches. I'm hoping he puts on some mass and some length.
He's got the mass.
Oh, he's got the mass.
He's got the mass like crazy. Like my hand is.
I mean, he's got good beams. 24-inch beams. I mean, look here. He might
blading out.
Might split on that too.
Yep. I got it. That buck that I'm after. That buck that I'm after this year. He's got probably the biggest blades I've ever seen on a G2s on a buck, and just big old thick. I mean, he just all the way around. And he had tine height. He has it all. I'll show you some pictures of him that I've got. The real good pictures of him I got during. I guess it would have been right before he shed velvet. And then I got all of his velvet coming off.
Oh, that's cool.
He raked a tree right in front of the.
Probably minutes.
Oh, he was losing it there.
Yeah.
Like in front of the camera.
Wow.
It was probably some of the coolest trail camera pictures I've got. He was hitting a tree just outside of the side of that camera. And so I'm imagining he was tearing that out.
How many days before season?
4.
Yeah, I had 1.
4, which kind of blew my mind. Everybody else but that buck was hard-horned and tore off probably a week or a week and a half, 2 weeks before him, from my knowledge. Him, on the other hand, he waited. And like I said, that's what's one of those old deer things. What makes a deer not shed velvet faster? I mean, all these little things that I'm just trying to figure out over time.
To do with like when they lose their horns too, I mean,
I think traveling too, though.
Yeah, I think so.
I think traveling and finding out what other bucks in his area. If a buck didn't hit his area, like to go against him or to try to get in his zone, why would he? Unless it's just itching him. You know what I'm saying? That bully buck, he loses his horn. He loses his velvet. He's first one every year.
He probably travels a lot and a lot of stress on the body and just
But that's how some of these big dogs. It's just trying to figure out what makes these bigger bucks comfortable. And like I said, everyone's different. Every buck's different. I feel. I mean, some have characteristics where they do about the same thing because of the terrain, and you can kind of gear yourself towards that. But like every buck's gonna be different. I mean, there's another buck. It's called Uncle Buck on the farm, and he's 20. He's over 20 inches wide. Every bit of it. If not, I mean, he's probably, I don't know. Me and my Uncle Tom, we sat and looked at him several different times on trail cameras, and I'm like, I don't know. I'll show you some pictures. You let me know what you think he is. But I'd be willing to say he's 22, 23, 24 inside.
That's my goal, man. I want to kill a real tall, wide buck.
I like the old gnarly ones. I like.
Oh,
if
I
he'd
love
have came out in front of me, this dude would have been toast last
Yeah.
year. Because I like those thick. I do. I don't know why. I like framey bucks. Don't get me wrong. I mean, they're cool. I like a thick, gnarly dog. I like
This guy.
Yeah, this guy. This
Just
is
a
like this is what I like.
beast.
Just a big old bodied, thick, mean looking. And he goes out there and he runs a roost. That's who I want. I want the guy that runs a roost.
Yeah.
Unless he's like, obviously if he's a 180-inch deer, duh. You know what I mean? Like, duh. Which I've got 2 deer that it's could be this year if they stay. We'll see. We've got corn in this year, and the corn years are my favorite. So it just makes everything like a labyrinth. All my corridors are more labyrinth.
I think we got beans this year.
Yeah, you said beans. I think beans.
Well, beans at my family farm.
Oh, family farm. Yeah.
But I think beans on this farm too.
Yeah, because you're doing beans, corn.
Yeah, beans on this farm. Because
God.
I didn't hunt this farm this year.
Yeah.
Bad thing, but that farm, it's right on the highway.
And dude, you know what? Let's talk about this for a second.
There's a lot of dead deer that get hit. I see them.
Let's talk about these highway spots. Okay, and this isn't the first time this has come up. It's not necessarily. It is on the show, but it's not the first time I've come up in this situation. You've watched some of these giants get smacked right by the road, like right on the road almost. What do you? I'm wondering why, if that's like if it's almost easier to kill them by the road
because they feel more comfortable because they're used to the cars and noise.
And crap. I don't know. Like,
I could see that.
I mean, you look at. I don't know if you watch Midwest Whitetail much, but there was a buck they had on there named Todd Gurley, and they were literally laughing and talking about how cars are going up and down. They would honk when they'd see deer in the field, and you could hear it in the video. And sure as crap, here come Todd Gurley, that big buck, and he was like, "Oh, I can't believe he's here," and I'm like, "Well, he's comfortable in it."
Right.
It's almost, when you get like nervous in certain situations and things make you comfortable, just like maybe like sleeping white noise or whatever. What if that's like a thing for bucks?
Yeah.
They're like, and get in their own, get themselves out of their own headspace. They just kind of get used to that noise, and they're like, okay, so they're less careless. They're a little bit more careless in those areas.
Mm-hmm.
So is that something we should look at? Is that something we should kind of hone in on? Are those deer going to be less careless in those areas?
Right.
Would that be a target spot to be? Are they going to run does in there?
Because this farm, we have a camera, so you got the highway, and then we're right off the highway. We touch, and there's a strip of woods kind of runs almost along the highway, right on the back side of the woods. It's not, I want to say 20 yards wide of a strip of woods. Right on the back side of that strip of woods, we got a camera, and we get tons of buck pictures on that. Just right off the highway,
right?
And they run that finger up and down.
I don't know. We're going to check in.
I don't think.
I want to do some studies this year. Since we got this team built, we're going to have multiple with the pick of the litter team that we have this year and all of us on here. I think we're going to have a chance to really study different things, and I was telling Steven the other day, I said, I think we should push each other to kind of do different things in different areas so that we can kind of collect a little bit more knowledge on some of these
I want to do
patterns.
Some like trail cam,
That's what I mean. Yeah,
too,
that's what I mean. Like just literally get out there and see what they do, and then you can maybe we can possibly pick off why they're in those areas in that part of the time of the year. We all know that they move summer, fall, winter. They have different bedding areas, and for most farms, I'm not saying every farm's like that, because I've had bucks on the farm that literally don't move off of it.
Mm-hmm.
And they might be
this guy.
Maybe they are, and I'm just not noticing it. But I've seen them there a lot. Like and it doesn't make sense for them to move anywhere else, in my opinion. But maybe they are.
We had this guy on the farm every week we were getting pictures of him every other couple of days, and that farm he lived on, it only got hunted, I think 3, maybe 4 days all year long. No pressure.
So he didn't care. He was there then.
We went in there early season, before season, hung stands. I think we were in there for 1 day, maybe 2, and setting up cameras. Then we went in there and no, I think that was it. We just went in there 1 or 2 days, and then we had some guys. We leased it with some guys from Tennessee, and they come up and hunted it 3 or 4 days, and 2 of the 3 ended up killing a couple nice bucks. One guy, one of them killed I want to say mid 40s, 140-inch 8-point.
Oh, nice.
And then the other guy killed a real nice 9 or 10. I want to say could have been an 8. And then the other guy, he could have shot, but he was waiting on a 150 plus.
Yeah.
But it's a great farm.
let's we're gonna have to get wrapped up here pretty soon, guys. We actually got a full day, us guys. We got some stuff to do as far as getting our picks to the litter. We're gonna be probably shed more light on that on next week. I'd say mid next week or week after, once we get everybody with pictures and everything done as far as getting this. I want to have our banners and all that stuff done, but once we get all that, we'll start introducing this. Like I said earlier, Caleb. So every year from here on out, the Coffee with Coleman, I'm going to pick a random. Well, not really random. That's a terrible way. Not random at all. I'm going to interview next year. I think the Big Buck Chronicles is going to be. We're already booked out till August. So next year we're probably going to have 25 guys for the Big Buck Chronicles series. And I'm going to try to push it pretty much into the end of August, which gives me 20 shows between turkey season to August.
Yep.
Now, if I don't try to, and it's not that I don't want to, I still have everyday stuff as far as, family things and things like that to get done. So, I'm probably not going to be on podcasts too much during the season because I'm going to be with us guys, the Ridge Ghosts and the Picks of Litter guys, and we're just going to be trying to bring you guys content. Now, we will be sitting down throughout the season when we do get together, and we'll talk about our hunts for the day, and that'll be all live from pretty much from a field, wherever we're at that time. And then we're going to have camps. We're going to have quite a few camps. We're going to try to go down and pretty much hunt around each one of our spots this year. We'll try to get down by you, find some public, get together, and we can hunt together. Then we'll get up.
Good public down there.
We got some phenomenal. Yeah, we're going to try to. It's tough, but it's fun, and I want to have some camps like that over those some long weekends and whatnot. We're going to try PA. Obviously, we're gonna. It's like pretty cheap to hunt PA in Michigan. So for sure you'll see the Ridge Ghost up there, and we're going to have the Ridge Ghost guys up there in Michigan, PA. And there's another spot up by Iowa. It's not technically Iowa, but we're going to go try it. It's close. It's on the border. I've heard it's great hunting.
Hey, anywhere close. On the border.
Oh, yeah. And it's actually Steven has hunted it before. He knows quite a bit about it. But we're going to be getting with that. And for you guys that don't know Steven, he was on 2 weeks ago, right? 2 weeks ago. He's our third edition and final edition to the Ridge Ghosts. And like I was saying, every year we're going to pick somebody out of the Big Buck Chronicles who we think is we're going to call him the pick of the litter, man. You're the pick of the litter. You're the best pup that we've got. And, we don't just critique you guys on, size of deer. We critique you on your thought process, being able to film, being able to bring those things, what your drive is. And this year just happened to be Caleb. We picked him. We checked off every box we needed for that to happen, somebody who's passionate. So you guys that want to come on the show, feel free to come on the show. Understand that there's going to be something for you guys. If, it's going to be, it's terrible almost. It's almost like competition, but it's not. And I'm not trying to make it a competition, but, if you're going to be on there and you're going to hunt with us Ridge Ghosts for a season, we want you to be well-versed. And we want you to, to do your best. All we want is confidence, really. And if you can be a confident hunter and an ethical hunter and somebody who has as much passion as we do, it's more passion, I guess, than anything for us, because we're all passionate. We hunt almost every day of the season somewhere. And, that's what we're wanting. We're wanting people that are going to want to come on here and teach and not be afraid to give out, their thought process, not be afraid to tell their tactics, because don't do nobody good keeping them to yourself. It just, if you can go out and shoot a 150-inch deer,
we want to know how you do it.
We want to know how you do it. And we want your neighbor, if your neighbor knows how to go out and do it, guess what you guys are going to be shooting 2 years later? 170-inch deer. And it's going to grow from there.
Exactly.
So, those things, or at least stay in that 155, 160, 170, and those type of deal. You don't have to shoot those big deer. Age is, like we talked about earlier, is a bigger thing. But we're going to have a ton of stuff coming out. Vision Outdoor guys, we're going to get on there with you guys a few times, I'm sure, throughout the season. I'm going to try to get Kansas. I'd like to come up with you guys during Kansas, do some more collaborations and stuff. I think the TFO boys, they're going to be coming on too at some point. I don't know if you've got to meet any of those guys. Good guys.
I'm not sure.
Top Point Outdoors. They're super cool dudes. We're going to try to get with them, do some stuff this season. They're going to be coming on 2 weeks, a week or two, 3 weeks, something like that. Brandon, he's going to be on here. We're going to be doing a lot of stuff, guys. Lots and lots of stuff. We've got sponsors coming in, and we're going to try to get some of that stuff. And we're not just picking sponsors that are there. We're trying to pick. We're trying to pick stuff that works for our game plan. And it's not necessarily against any. I'm not trying to say I'm against any other product out there. It's just for me and for us. We're trying to find stuff that works for us, our style. And, that's what we're picking. We can be picky, we can not be picky, but sorry, we're going to be picky when it comes to that, especially with companies that we want to rep. It's not just about that. It's the community that they bring to, if they're good people. But yeah, we're going to be doing so much stuff this fall. We're going to keep updates throughout the season. I think the last episode of Big Buck Chronicles for this season is going to be August 6th, and then we're going to be doing some picks of the litter stuff after that. And then we're going to be doing, obviously, rolling into fall season.
Yep.
And then we're going to be I think we're doing the Midwest hunt over by the lake.
Oh, yeah.
Some competition. I can't think of the
it's
name
a weekend hunt, isn't it?
Yeah. It's like a whole weekend. I'm going to be doing a podcast there.
What is it?
I can't think of it. It's Midwest something.
Yeah.
Midwest, I'd have to get a hold of Dalton Wood. He's Rack Daddy Minerals owner. Dalton, he's the one that kind of put that page together and does stuff. But yeah, anyway, we're going to be doing that. We got some stuff we got to get done today, and didn't try to cut it short or nothing, but I think we've been on here for 2.5 hours almost.
Wow.
Time goes quick when you're talking big bucks. I tell everybody on this show, I was like, dude, it goes quick. But I want to appreciate y'all. Thank you for coming out, and thank you for tuning in.
Yeah, thanks.
And if you guys have questions, yeah, dude, anytime. You're welcome. Well, you're going to be on here a lot throughout this season. But thanks everybody that tuned in today. And if you didn't get a chance to tune in, it'll be ready for you on the flip side of the YouTube series.
Yep.
So anyway, thanks, and as always, stay awesome.